to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago,
The Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
It's another one of those news days, kids. It is. And before anybody in the chat room freaks out, I love you guys, but Johnny and I are not in the same studio today. It is green screen. Otherwise, I would not be able to reach into his head. And, his brain is so squishy.
Ooh.
That's good. Does it feel good?
No, it's that silky smooth.
Yeah, that's right. It is. It's real. That's amazing. It's your head. It really does give away the general overall.
Yeah, I moisturize.
Do you? I've always heard that it's against that because once you start, you can't stop. You know what I mean? I hydrate to keep my brain fluffy. Anyways, welcome to the show. It was an exciting week, Johnny Million. The first
things happened. I was a little disappointed here and there, but things happened.
You were? Why? That they didn't pay the
self-reported height and weight.
Why? Because that's your actual height and weight?
I wanted irrefutable.
Right. You wanted the real numbers.
I wanted him to to kick off his lifts.
Right.
In the jailhouse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he wouldn't weigh too much and then be 5'11" and 285.
Right. I gotta say, I think that day is coming. Here's the thing. I think it's almost perfect that Trump will eventually have to share his height and weight when he reports to actual jail at this point.
I think
because
so.
It is leaning in that direction in such a severe way that I gotta say, I was dubious for quite a while about the possibility of him actually doing time. Now with 91 charges and the Federalists,
it seems like out of 91, it's hard to beat a charge.
Yep. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And then to do that 90 more times.
Oh, and if they do that kind of three-peat thing on you where they've got 3 charges, 2 of them, it's tends to be I guess this is the strategy. Watching enough Law and Order, I kind of draw this is that I got 4 charges. I got you dead to rights. All right. But charging 4 charges is a pain in the butt. So tell you what, I'll let you plead to 2 of them at half the charge, and you'll get a third less time. You're not going to get rid of. It's if each charge is 4 years, you get 20 years, or 5 years. You're going to get 20 years. You got 4 charges, and we'll cut it down to we'll give you a 25% off if you just don't cost the state $1 million, over some lame. I don't know whatever the person's job, minor larceny, series of larceny. So they'll talk to your lawyer and your lawyer talks to you, and like a sensible person, you go, let's see, 20 years, hard time, or 15 years, chance of being out in 7, can cut that in half with good behavior, out in 3. Yeah, I'll take the deal. I'm good with the deal. What, and 3 hots and a cot for the next 3 years? Hell, most maggots think the country's going to be destroyed in the next few years, and inside a prison will be the safest place. It'll be like season 3 of The Walking Dead. Because wouldn't that be the place you'd find? I mean, it's a place built for you to not get out of, but it's also very hard to get into.
The world be about to end in the next 9 months for the last 20 years.
I think you're onto something. I think you're what I would call the Gen X conundrum. Because the world has been ending our whole lives. Every 6 weeks, it's another, and it's not in a few years, if we don't get our act together, it's now, we're all dying. It's now, it's the worst it's ever been. As a matter of fact, you're in it, you don't even know it. So one of the things that is very positive about this weekend, I think that it maybe offsets, if we're talking about the numbers of it, the 215 versus something else, the number 14 became very popular this week because of the 14th Amendment. And that wonderful phrase in it, aid and comfort. Because if you give aid and comfort to insurrectionists and rebels, you can't run for office anymore. Not just president. You can't be a senator, Nothing.
There's-
And
that seems ridiculously easy to prove.
yeah, and it seems like there's a bunch of people that qualify for that.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what are you reaching for back there? Be careful. People can't see on the live stream. I have removed the box around Johnny Million, so it gives the illusion that we are sitting next to each other, just to make me happy. Although he's a little hazy because we have to get him a better light and a better green screen. But we'll work on it, and then you won't even know. And then we'll get an Unreal Engine thing, and it'll look like we're on a planet together. I've got a dream. So needless to say, the arrest of a former president, it's a big deal. And the phrase that I keep hearing from the Republicans is, this is the first, and in 200 plus years, we've never had anything like this. There's never been anything like this before. Well, we've never had a criminal crimer like Donald Trump
we never
in office.
elected like a wannabe mafioso.
Right, exactly. We've avoided that until now. And by the way, congratulations, America. You have lost your dictator virginity, because every major country, it seems, I mean, arguably Britain gets sort of a pass because they started with monarchy and stayed there. So a lot of their kings were loony, inbred, syphilitic psychopaths, right? So they know this well, They're like, if they just put him out in the castle and just leave him there for a while till he rots, that kind of thing. Just let him fall apart, and we'll wait for the next one. Maybe the kid won't be as stupid, right? So, and then, Germany, hello. And then I guess the French had a fascinating, they did it really well, because on the one hand, they had the royalty that were terrible to the peasantry and the regular French people, and ruled the place with an iron glove with a silk interior and the frills, and it smelled like baguettes.
Stop.
I know. Sorry. And
I don't want you to get me randy when you're talking about that stuff.
I know, it's all right. It's my bad. Yeah. And then they toppled that government with the sort of Jacobin revolutionaries who were murderous psychopaths themselves, and just decided to kill everybody they didn't like in the name of, I don't know if they were calling it socialism at the time, but that was the idea. They raced straight towards that useless eaters thing as quick as possible, which is fascinating because that's kind of the same thing that the king was doing. But anyways, and then there's, like I said, Germany, China, Russia, arguably a couple of times, right? So like these are, we've reached that part where, I guess no great country gets to skip. And I look forward to seeing Canada's.
And you rise above it. It's just like coming out of a slump,
That's right.
You're like, you learn from your mistakes. You dust yourself off.
You get a new bat and you start swinging again. And then Canada, I look forward to Canada's PG-13 version. Because it'll happen to Canada, but it'll be adorable. Like, Canada will have an authoritarian takeover, and the guy will still open with an apology.
Yeah, he'll be so sorry about it. He's like, oh, but this is just how it has to go.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry I have to round up a bunch of you, but there will be...
when it comes down to it, what I say goes.
Yeah, it's just got to have that. But I will say, we're instead of putting you in a gulag or a prison, we're going to put you in a really nice hotel in Conomowoc. Anyways.
And I hope you like maple.
I hope because you're going to be working all day long
You're
making syrup.
You're working in the maple mines.
The maple gulag.
Can you imagine, like, coming home from the maple mines? You're just like,
reeking of burnt sugar.
Oh man, I spill like a drop of maple syrup on my jeans, and I smell it for a week.
Right?
Even when I'm not wearing those pants anymore.
Yeah, you can get into Canada when that happens without a passport. All right. This started. We're having too much fun, and largely because I saw like 3 videos of Republicans just so sad for America.
Oh no!
They are.
You mean the Law and Order Party?
Yeah, they're so sad. They're very. This is nothing to laugh about. This is That's nothing to laugh about. Okay, we arrested a president for the first time in our history. Never mind the fact that he deserved it. The point is, this is a terrible position that the people we voted for are getting arrested for doing the stuff that you're not supposed to do, or you'll get arrested for it. That's not supposed to happen. When our guy gets in, laws get suspended. We all get a KMA card. So that we don't have to do traffic tickets anymore.
Okay, from the chat, Maple Gulag
is
that's pretty good. Thank you, Bubba.
I think it sounds a bit like a Canadian stripper who went to work in Russia during a really bad
Please
era.
welcome to the stage,
Maple Gulag. Blah 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 blah. All right, we got to take a break. This is getting too silly. I have sort of serious news to get to, and then of course Philip Bittner's going to join us at the. I blocked it out. Don't worry. Philip Bittner's going to join us in the second hour. Lots going on in Ukraine today. Apparently, the Ukrainians, are finding that the Russian soldiers, shockingly, are staying in rotation and have no backup in a lot of areas. It's almost as if this has all been a mirage. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more. Johnny Million. Want to see what I made, Johnny? Want to see what I made? I was so proud of myself.
Here I am like an idiot.
Did you see that people are like already making the right is making merch off of his mugshot?
Yes. You know what the best part about that is? He's not making a friggin' dime off of it. Look, here's Trump's biggest in the middle. Well, I'm going to save it for the air. Bring that up. Bring that up when we start again. I don't want to.
Like, how quickly can that thing pop up? The Trump pop up.
Oh, pretty quick.
Here I am like an idiot.
And there's no sound effect.
Oh, you don't hear
Not
it?
yet.
Oh, you don't hear. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it has a sound effect. Hold on one second.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Hold on. Let me do something real quick. Because don't make any noise yourself. Okay? Don't say anything.
Here I am like an idiot.
Oh.
They can hear it on YouTube.
Okay, you couldn't hear it. Wait, no. I got it. I figured out what it is. You are not hearing
Stand by, we're coming back.
Thank you. The voice chat is not getting this. There you go.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I was just showing Johnny my new pop-up for the live stream that I made. It's
strong. I said, is there a sound effect? It'll be even better with a sound effect. And now I've heard it.
Here I am like an idiot.
And it goes back down. That's what I like. That took so much doing. I'm such an idiot. Anyways, I literally made that. Like, if people are enjoying the live stream, please subscribe. Infotainmentwars.com. We don't need the documents. We have everything memorized. Help us reach our goal of millions of subscribers at this point. Because that's the only thing that's going to help us.
See what Hal has planned when he gets to 100,000. I saw it before the stream went live, and it was it's worth it, Hal admirers.
Yeah, it's a thirst fest. I'm gonna go do a thirst-a-thon.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I promise to not donate to. I said I'll only take my shirt off if people want to see what 6'3", 215 really looks like. We're talking like mild man boobs, skinny fat, and I what you gonna do?
But in your defense, you are wearing a King's X shirt, so all the more reason to just keep it on in general. And I have a Steel Panther shirt on, so we're on the opposite ends of the musical quality spectrum in our own way, and I think it's great. So you brought up something during the break. Bring it up again, Johnny Million, because we were talking about the mugshot that is historic. It is
right, and there are already people on the right, entrepreneurs, if you will. making money from merch of that mugshot, T-shirts and mugs, and probably.
And you know what the
coins.
best thing about? There's two great things about it. There's two wonderful things about that very fact that I'm very excited about, and they occurred to me the instant they said they were going to actually release the mugshot. One is that Trump is not going to get a dime from any of these doofuses making their own handmade art, and it's going to be everywhere. Like, Elvis's estate does all these cease and desists on like Zazzle and Teespring and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And-
sure, yeah, yeah.
but
They have to play whack-a-mole with that stuff.
But the Trumpies can't use those because a lot of their merch got kicked off because they write a lot of awful. So a lot of them don't have accounts. So they went to private people making them and private printers or different or Chinese accounts for the record. So right in the middle, and this is there will be a massive priority swing in the Donald Trump legal verse as he is facing 91 counts and 4 indictments, many of which could result in decades behind bars. And I guarantee he is flipping out about the money he's not making on those shirts and has ordered half of his attorneys to plug that hole by issuing cease and desist orders, just like hunting people down on the internet and sending them a cease and desist. Especially the ones that put a tiny little mustache under his nose, or which is also one of the reasons why he leans so far forward to avoid the Hitlerization of the picture. That and hiding his neck.
And one thing
wobble.
that he's lucky that they cropped it, because underneath it his hands are going.
Right, he's got
Like most
T-Rex
hands.
He's got T-Rex hands, just that.
Yeah.
Or the baby in It's Alive. So. There have been to the current count apparently are 7 defendants either rolling or going rogue. Now the ones that are going rogue, Sidney Powell, Kenny Cheesebro, and Mark Meadows, all filed for a change of venue or a speedy trial or both. Now Mark Meadows wanted to move his to federal court, because I guess he thinks if he separates himself, he can drag it on forever because federal court will be slower. That's the theory.
Yeah.
Whereas the state really has they have the impetus to get it off their docket. They need to move this thing along. And in that camp, you've got the Kraken herself, Sidney Powell, who has been occupying like a lunatic wing of Telegram ever since she kind of dropped off the radar. And she put in an order for a speedy trial as well. She wants a rush on that. She's willing to pay the extra $7 in shipping just to get it here by Wednesday. And there's going to be a big box of Amazon's going to drop off a big box of go to jail on her doorstep any day now. And we got a cat making an appearance. Yeah, she and Chud are about the same circumstance, it seems, right now. She needs all the loving she can get, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I almost wish I could pet her on the live stream. That's lovely. So anyways, people on the radio are like, what is going on? Anyway, the other one is, of course, Kenny Cheesebro, who's apparently the guy who was, I was always under the impression for a good long while that John Eastman was the guy behind the legal theories that Trump was, kind of buying into, that he was using as the premise. And it turns out that
legal advice.
Yes, Cheesebro was the one who was actually, I guess, drafting, came up with these ideas. And Eastman would be the guy that would draft it up and make it look, like spit polish it and sell it to the boss. And maybe it's because, I swear to God, it could be as simple as Donald Trump will listen to someone with the last name Eastman because it sounds like Eastwood to him, and that's how he thinks. Just like he hires.
Yes, I immediately get distracted by cheese, like in every aspect of my life.
Well, I think that's the other reason that Trump, just like anybody, I'm not going to take advice from a guy named Cheesebro, so he has to have a. He's got to ricochet it through another idiot. That said, those three, in an attempt to salvage themselves, have actually been the ones that have created the most trouble for Trump and the rest of the crowd, because the idea that they're, you keep them all together, and if some of you want a speedy trial, then all of you get a speedy trial. Welcome to RICO in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's, that in and of
RICO in
itself.
Georgia is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was, did you hear?
Kind of has to be, because they do have a big, they've had a
Mrs.
big
Million,
gang problem.
Who is a librarian, was doing some research on this stuff. She tries to stay on the outside of the political thing so she can sleep. But
Understood.
when things got intense and everything was getting everything was moving forward, she found these articles about how the way RICO is designed in Georgia is a large part of the way Reagan wanted it to be, so that they could take down all the drug dealers and all of those outfits in Georgia. And now here the worm is turning.
And it's based on, it was Republicans that did it.
Yeah,
They crafted, it's almost like Trump never had a chance of winning California as much as he believes he'd love to be able to, and that's a possibility. It's a little bit silly, but if 3 strikes somehow came to apply, like if they,
that'd be amazing.
you know what I mean, where Trump had been engaged a long time ago, he'd done 2 things like, denying rent to people and that kind of stuff, all the stuff he loved to do in New York, but he'd done it in California, and then the third one happened, and he was like, nope, sorry, guaranteed 25 years behind bars, and like hoisted by their own petard across the board.
Yeah.
One of the the one guy that everybody yes, I gotta say, he's my least favorite Star Trek captain. Yeah, just wasn't as smart as the others. Anyways, I don't know, that's terrible. The one, all right, so they keep talking about one guy who flipped. One of the, and there can be debate about the phrase, whether people flipped or whether they just decided to tell the truth. But technically speaking, he did tell something different to the grand jury. And then when he was charged, because they actually had film of him lying, he went, oh, actually, you know what? I thought we were gonna get away with that. My bad. Can I tap out? I thought I didn't know you had tape of that and stuff. So when you go to trial, I'm gonna know you have tape, so I'm not gonna admit to that. And so, but I'll roll. That's fine. So he's the guy who they asked to erase all the servers, and that.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's the guy who changed his testimony.
Yes. So he apparently didn't say they didn't. He just said, I don't remember anything like that.
Yeah, right.
And then as soon as they were like, well, under RICO, you're getting charged with the rest of them in Georgia, he rolled. Under this is Jack Smith's case. He's the one who has rolled against them. We got to take a break. I've fused 2 cases together in my mind, and they're coming apart. No,
91 charges, you're getting confused.
Yeah, it's a little difficult. But anyway, so that guy is the primary reason why Trump and Waltine Nauta and De Oliveira are all going down for that. And that is the worst case. I know Georgia's making a lot of news. I know there's a lot of talk about it, and there's a lot of mandatory minimums and that kind of stuff, but an old man could get around those, and large amounts of fine. I don't know if Fani Willis will allow it, but I will say this. The case that is losing him the most voters, Trump, the most voters, is the documents case. Half the Republican Party. That's why they're sliced up amongst a bunch of other people, because they are not going to vote for him after this, especially after all this lock her up stuff on Hillary Clinton. We'll be back right after this. By the way, I got China and world news. There's a lot of stuff happening.
What?
Yeah. Sorry, I was
in the world.
It's true.
Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
Groovy.
I think you're some kind of deviated prevert.
Yeah, okay, that's why, because I have 2 articles open at different places. Same article open twice at different places. There it is. Okay, let me grab this. I love me some. They're finally coming around. Let's see if is this page correct. Yes, it is. Oh, hi chat room. There you guys are.
Hey.
Yay.
That is, after switching to Restream and going through OBS, the best part is being able to scroll back through the chat.
Yes.
Is that just, is the chat window that you brought up, is that from the standalone, or is that a pop-out window from OBS?
That's the website. So that's the chat on the website. So I open up a browser window. I can also do one. I can also do one that is a that looks like this. See if I can.
It's like
bring
in
it
the
up
docking area.
Yeah, there an overlay of it. There version of things, but I won't pop it up right now because it'll be too confusing. But
and the overlay in OBS is so much better because you can set a background opacity so that there's no well, like you've got 100% opacity, so you can actually read the thing.
Right. That's the key. Right. It's a lovely setup. Thanks very much. I appreciate that. I agree. I'm working on it. I'm trying to
get deeper in the weeds. The more you understand how hard.
I know I'm only on 1 day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. You know, so Johnny Million, my dear friend, you know, I have my little China fixation, and it gets worse sometimes when the smarty pantses start doing the "it's fine" talk, and then and then I start going, "It's not anywhere near fine. It's not even close to fine. It's terrible," and for whatever reason, They when they eventually come around and admit that it's not fine, they don't credit me. They don't go, you know what? We gotta send Hal like one of those fruit on dowels, you know, that like those fruit bouquets, you know.
Wasn't fruit on dowel in the IT crowd?
It's a regular thing. The first time I heard of it, besides outside the real world, was on Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. Fruit
what
on
an
dowels.
Underappreciated Adult Swim show.
Oh my God! I mean, Stephen Colbert. I mean, come on, just as a genius, just playing random.
Oh, did
characters.
He write on that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Now.
Yeah. Now you understand why it's like sharp. Yeah. So one of the big stories, this is in Axios. This is from 3 hours ago, and it's just adorable. It's an article titled, China's Slow-Moving Economic Disaster. Okay, it is not a slow-moving economic disaster. It is already here. It is already wrecking lives and businesses and people's life savings in China. It is destroying the entire economic underpinning of that country currently. And it has been for the last 5 years. And now it's just visible to some folks, I guess, finally. What's slow is people's recognition of this. And this is very similar. And I don't know if it's the America Last crowd that if Donald Trump is America first, the only response is America Last. You know, the kind of like folks that are allegedly on our side that just blame America for everything in the world, or sure. Republicans who have to sell to their voters that the country's failing and is terrible. I mean, you listen to Donald Trump, it's like the entire world is on fire. I mean, obviously Portland's gone, #RIP Portland. But right, you know, it's so sad to see. I mean, I was going to go visit the crater, but they said it's still radioactive and you can't, so whatever. But overall, these folks just, you know, there's two groups of people politically right now that have become strange bedfellows. And it is the regular run-of-the-mill Republicans, ironically, a large swath of them. It used to be a fringe group, but now it's a large swath of them. And what I would call the faux-gressive left, the poser left that, you know, runs the whole, TYT, if we don't get everything, nobody gets anything method, which is inhumane and madness and grotesque and silly and privileged and only something someone who's never skipped a dessert could come up with, because the rest of us believe in progress. However, it is whatever ground you gain is worth it, especially when it's not promised.
That's how we got where we are with Roe and Wade.
That's right. I lay that at their feet directly. There is no getting around it. Sorry, that's that. That said, it is interesting to me to see the China's going to eat our lunch crowd, which is still around. They're still playing the hits. You know what I mean? They're still, it's like a band that has boys in the title when they're in their mid-60s. It's very strange. And unless it at some point was meant to be ironic and became so. Right? This is from the article. China finally reopened its economy earlier this year after years of extreme COVID restrictions.
The economy.
Yeah. Well, they stopped their COVID restrictions on a dime. Was the idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And whatever. So far, it's a giant fizzle with profound ramifications for the rest of the globe. Also, I disagree. This is one thing that we've heard a bunch of times, with profound ramifications for the rest of the globe. Yes, America makes a lot of our junk over there. We make a lot of our low-res products over there. No, anything that doesn't require fine craftsmanship or crackerjack timing is made over there, and anything that does might be assembled over there, which is the distinction. Right. Like the iPhone is not made in China. People talk about this all the time. The iPad, made in China. They talk about the laptops that are made in China. They are absolutely not. They are assembled in China. As a matter of fact, the chips that everyone clamors about, if they aren't made in Taiwan, which most of the ones in the Mac stuff that you're talking about aren't, they're either made in South Korea or right here in the good old U.S. of A. That's right. Silicon Valley got its name for a reason, and they are printed and processed here, and then they're shipped over there and popped into a socket by somebody, and that's that. So that process, the making toys and plastic fabrication and all that kind of stuff is much more market related. You have to. If the cost of a toy becomes more, an aspect of the overall profit from it, you kind of need more of an impetus to actually set up the factory and retool the place and print the thing out and make it and assemble it and all that stuff. If you could just make toys randomly, like the crap toys, anybody who goes down to, I famously have a Spider-Man doll that I got in Chinatown once. That's, you know what I mean? Where they're so busy making Spider-Man dolls for all the other markets, they just all the knockoffs that don't pass inspection, they put in a box they're supposed to melt down, because that's the deal they have with Marvel or the company that's printing stuff, and then they just put it in a label, put another name on it, like Spider Guy, and then they sell it in a third world country or under the table or in a box of other stuff. I
love those so much.
I do too, but that's a direct result of the overproduction aspect of just-in-time manufacturing and the made-in-China, low-cost labor and, quite frankly, low environmental regulations that they have over there. Because you can make plastics factories are rough on the environment, and so there's a lot of mitigating things you have to do, and China just doesn't bother. So for a long time, you could get stuff made over there, and that's how it would be done. You just save yourself that cost. But if you have to make that toy here or in Canada or even in Mexico, where the labor costs are now cheaper than they are in China, the consequence of the quality of water and all that kind of stuff is a lot closer to home. And so you're gonna have to argue why this product is valuable, and why. And when you do that, the necessity of quality goes up. Because once you've started this conversation, it never ends. People want, it's like the McFarlane characters, the like Spawn action figures versus those barely movable, straight armed, no bending at the elbows. Those toys, when you get those as a kid and your favorite superhero can't bend his knees or his elbows, and you're like, that's not very action. Why is he always standing at attention? Well, it's because they're made in the same basic mold with one layer over it in a place in China, and they just hammer them out. Yeah. That's easy. Those two things, one is easier to blow off. You don't need that. And quite frankly, you'll recall a time when there used to be the toy. Remember the toy? Remember Cabbage Patch Kids
or Tickle Me Elmo?
Yep, or Transformers, or there was a time when there was one big toy and there were very few of them because largely they were made in the United States or closer, or if they were made and assembled in China, it was still a rather big undertaking. It wasn't a well-oiled machine of just cranking out plastic crap. And so
and like the famous Star Wars Hasbro rollout where nobody expected Star Wars to be a giant hit, and then they were way behind on the toys.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And those are, you'll notice those figures, curiously enough, because of Hasbro's rule about durability, were solid. They were not hollow. Yep. Whereas a lot of the toys that you'll find nowadays that are about the same are not solid. Even if they have a cylinder of empty inside of them just to save on product, because the idea is that you'll get bored of them before they wear out. That it used to be that we want these to last forever. Hence Beanie Babies and other stuff like that. Anyways, the point being is that once the quality argument starts, then there's a reason why you want more of an Etsy version of stuff. And we have a thing in the United States and in the West that's been growing over the last few years called egonomics. And it started largely with cars and the variability of cars. And quite frankly, it was the tricked out aspect of like Japanese Tokyo drift cars where they were putting everything they could on these kind of run-of-the-mill commuter cars that started this trend over in the United States that turned into more of a gentrified version of it where I want 9 colors to choose from instead of 3. I want different coating instead of that. I want these kind of headlights, the round versus the rectangular, that kind of stuff. And the more you do that, the closer that stuff has to come home because you need to be able to add those parts here. And that's, in effect, what happened. It did, after the 2008 crash, that was one of the things that reinvigorated the auto industry in the United States. But again, that you can move that stuff here, but then the manufacturing part, or the assembly part, like I told you about before, with the iPhone and the iPad and the like, those things you can move to places like Vietnam and Indonesia and Mexico, where there are plenty of people willing to do that work who are totally capable of doing it. It's not low-tech work, and it's not sweatshop work, but it's definitely work. It's definitely a gig. It's definitely something you have to spend time and focus doing, and it requires a human eye and a human touch to do it. And it's an order of magnitude better than the other jobs that are outside in a lot of those countries. And so they're welcoming them. Vietnam is doing an end run right now around China's, manufacturing future. And they have enough land and enough people to make up for probably 60% of the lost manufacturing of the major stuff.
Damn.
That's the expensive stuff. That's not, again, not the plastic toys and that kind of stuff, or cheap rugs or any of the easy machine stuff. But the actual assembly stuff that's high-priced electronics and the like, those assembly places, they can move to Vietnam or Indonesia or, indeed, Mexico. And I've said this for a little while as somebody who, 会说中文, I can speak Mandarin, I speak Chinese, that Spanish is the new Mandarin, kids, because the closeness of the market, the ability to, the amount of workers and the labor costs in Mexico are going to be a reason why what factories they can't move right back into the United States for the long-term economic security of not having to worry about something funky happening in another country. And there will be those that have to happen here because cartels and other issues in Mexico, destabilization factors, will make it a business choice you got to make. Am I going to build a factory there that in a couple of years might be seized by some lunatics and turned into a coke plant? That's a thought, right? Which you don't have to think about and factor into your bottom line or the loans you take out, or the banks that have to factor into any loans you take out for, expansion, if you put it in the United States or in Canada, for example. And we're already at the break, and I haven't even gotten to Africa and Venezuela, because big news. Like, it's interesting how much Africa just kind of stays off the U.S. radar, considering our conversations about race in this country. And yet there doesn't seem to be, amongst the people that seem to be most concerned with it on either side, a conversation about what happens in Africa and the impact that it's going to have on the, in the next 50 years in terms of that continent and the rest of the world. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. I love you. They're talking to Hank Paulson about China, and you're like, dude, why don't you just talk to everybody who missed it? Good Lord. And this is
evidently Bob Barker has finally passed away.
Oh, Bob Barker passed. I have to say, that dude hung around.
Yeah,
yeah. How old was he?
99.
Yeah, there you go, man. That's the thing about 99 is you kind of die pissed, I think. You're so close to hitting the triple digits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Like another kind of classic, in general, good dude. But 99, I'm not going to get upset about that.
Yeah, he did fine.
Yeah, he did fine, and he did great, and he was, it's I wouldn't presume to be as sad as his family, who's actually experiencing it right, acutely in their lives right now. So let me open up this guy. Yeah, let me open up this guy so I can explain what ECOWAS is. Do you know what the ECOWAS is? The Economic Community of West African States?
No.
Okay. It's
I mean, the
name back in 20 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah. It sounds very nice. It's let's see. There's a coup in Niger right now, that's been ongoing, and there was one in Mali and one in Burkina Faso.
Hang on.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. Johnny Million's on cat duty right now, and I don't mean that literally. I mean it kind of semi-figuratively. But as I was saying right before the break, there are a couple of things that I just want to put on people's radar, that I think we miss, and we don't recognize how much China and Russia specifically are playing into this. There is this assumption somehow amongst the I don't know, the intellectual dork web, that America is responsible for all the bad in the world, and if we just stopped, if we just pulled away from everything would be fine. If America would just stop meddling in things, it would be totally good. Like everything would settle, because we're the troublemaker. We roll in and we, force democracy on these places. We force industry on these places and all that. All right. The reality is, and I'll bring this up here. Hold on, chat room. This guy, there you go. The reality is that the world is incredibly complex. And the biggest source of that argument of if America just left, everything would be fine. The biggest source of that argument on the internet, in the form of, overt posts by their ministries of defense and their foreign ministers, and also by sock puppet accounts that they run, and by their dough-headed Western allies, is Russia and China. Russia and China are largely behind that message. And they've tested it out over the years many times. It had a negative effect on our reaction to about what was going on in Rwanda. Had we taken action, the argument is there would have been a lot less death. But I guess we'll never know because we had an aversion to involvement there in general. And, you know, we were kind of still, there was a hangover from Vietnam. There was the Iran-Contra stuff. And there was this idea that once you put Republicans in charge, they do terrible things with the military because they're like, ooh, a new toy. And therefore, that is what defines America's function in the world. It's the same way that like bad cops define all the other cops. While the rest of us take it for granted and enjoy the protection of regular order cops who are doing their job and, you know, being decent human beings and trying to protect us all from the awful. And remember, the worst, you know, cops only show up usually on the worst day of your life. And that's their day every day. That this, you know, the same thing has been sort of said of the U.S. military for a long time, or the CIA or what have you. And it's easy, especially to blame the CIA for everything because it's a secret organization. So you could just kind of, they can't answer. So that's one of the main reasons why they're, say, Alex Jones's go-to. Always go after the CIA because they can't actually respond. Similar to the FBI when they're in the middle of an investigation, or a DA in the middle of the investigation. And Republicans have it's interesting that they were very much against that for a while. You know, and now they're for it. You know, they want to hear all the details when it's about Hunter Biden, but when it's about, you know, Trump or any of his allies, they're like, hey, leaky, what you doing, Mr. Leaky? Right? So when it comes to something like Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso and what's happening with the West African nations, including Cote d'Ivoire, which is, of course, the Ivory Coast, which I think a lot of us associate with the blood diamond trade, have for a long time. And that general area, there's a belt of where it's environmentally very supportive of agriculture, and there's a lot of mineral wealth and all that, but there's not a lot of industry. And when there is money that comes in there, it's for something you can dig up and take out of the ground and ship somewhere else instead of make something out of it yourself right there. And therefore, it doesn't really ever help. It floods the area with money, and then that gets shuffled off. And it's very much, you could argue that what's happening in Niger and the ECOWAS countries is very similar to sort of Russia in general right now. I mean, what's the big difference between, you know, tough guys, you know, jockeying for a cabinet position amongst oligarchs to control certain, you know, the aluminum trade or the oil and gas industry or whatever in Russia, and what's going on in ECOWAS? Almost nothing. The difference is it's just cut up into pieces. I guess ECOWAS is sort of, you know, you think of it as the USSR in some ways, that it was like these are the pieces of it. But Niger and Nigeria and Mali and Burkina Faso have actually been kicked out. But they're trying to decide what to do about Niger. But all these countries right now, the timing of these coups over the last few years, and where the support is coming from, and the fact that you have I'd say three new factors in the area that people need to think of. The United States, and partially under Donald Trump, moving out of, as far as moving our troops out of Africa in almost every area, with the exception of Egypt, I would say. Anywhere we had troops in with UN peacekeepers and the like, Trump cut them in half, just took them out. And that gap was filled by Wagner Mercs moving in and Chinese investment and a tacit truce between the Wagnerites and the Chinese that we'll give you a kickback on this if you can clear this area, and we'll take it over and bleed its resources. Everything that everybody accuses the United States of doing because corporations come in and, Chevron wants to set up business and they have to deal with the government and they make a deal with the government and the government says yes or no to some things and they have a fight back and forth. Everything that people think that were like death squads and all that stuff that they think is the standard operating procedure of the United States, which it is not, is actively happening now because it is the standard operating procedure of China, of the Wagner Group, and of Russia. Period. End of story. The horrific war crimes carried out by Wagner in Africa that have led to a lot of these things, because these men move in, the Wagnerites move in, they commit horrible atrocities to set tribes against each other, and then sit back and watch the fun. And when the whole thing collapses, they in China effectively set up a puppet government for themselves and just start bleeding the country. Everything you've ever heard about supposedly this mythological monster of America that rolls through every place and does exactly this, is happening right now. And I know MST Watch in the chat says sounds like the West. It sounds like what you've heard the West does.
Right.
It's actually what they're doing. I don't know how to put, like, this is not excusing past crimes by the United States or corporations or the intermingling of those two. As a matter of fact, I think Donald Trump and his ilk, as did, Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush especially, don't get me started on Halliburton with Dick Cheney, set this type of thing up. They wanted that to be the standard. But unfortunately, in the United States, we come to our senses every so often and elect people who don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a choice that has to be made in some of these situations. And sitting back and watching people die, I don't know how people on our side of the aisle can just shrug that off. And I've said this, before, but this is your test as a president. Someone walks in and you have a decision to make and you have 20 minutes to make it, because in 30 minutes, a truck full of explosives is going to reach a market full of citizens and government officials in an allied country that is teetering on the brink of revolution, and they're barely stabilized. And if it happens, there will be starvation and 1 million people will die. And that truck is on a road surrounded by civilian vehicles. You can hit it on the road, or you can just let it go and blow up in the market and just let it play out. You will be killing innocent civilians with this strike if you blow it up on the road. If you let it hit the market, innocent civilians, many more will die. And it's the trolley problem happens on the regular. And it's why who you vote for matters. And in this particular situation, what Donald Trump made the decision midway through his presidency that anything Obama was invested in is got to be bad. The enemy of my enemy is my ally, which is a drunken assessment of reality. And he just decided anywhere we were actually helping, where the rules of engagement were decent, we're out. And I'm just going to give everybody the green light to be as awful as I thought they should have been when Bush was in power. It matters who's in charge. And right now, we have a decent dude in charge who's not jumping into this stuff, who's maybe moving slower. We got to take a break, but maybe moving slower with Ukraine than people would like. But at the same time, that temperance comes with age. And at the same time, he's not rushing into other stuff. It matters. We'll be back right after this. All right. Phil, I hear you. There he is. Excellent.
Howdy.
Hi, there we go. And I just got to go to here, and then I'll pop you in so you can be our guest. Excellent. And 3, 2, 1. Johnny's back in his box. What's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? What's in the box? Ah.
Do you ever see the William Shatner version?
No.
Oh,
sure
beautiful.
All right, yeah.
He did it for like some video music awards
Oh, of course.
ceremony or something.
That's
What's in the
in the
bags?
What's
in
the
bags?
box? Right,
What's in the bags? Beautiful. Beautiful.
It's the man is a national treasure, and now I have to go watch him do Rocket Man. Also, Johnny, I just realized that with my my wet hair, if I put my hair by my ears, I have Jean-Claude Van Damme hair from Hard Target.
Oh yeah.
Or me in the late 80s.
All right.
I had my mullet.
Nice.
I had my mullet.
Wow,
I had
all
my
right.
mullet when I was in high school. Yeah.
I never had a mullet. I had a tail
Back
at one
when I
point.
had hair.
Yeah, because my dad made me cut my long hair, and I had the woman, like, I was like, leave me a tail. And so she just let this like rat tail.
I was the trench coat army. I had my mullet. I had my before you couldn't walk around in trench coats anymore because of Columbine. But
right,
yeah, that was me in high school. Mullet and a big and Doc Martens and the whole 9 yards. Man, I was proto punk.
We so would have gotten along.
Grunge.
Yeah, we so would have.
I
gotten
don't know.
along.
You would have been hair metal, and I would have been kind of proto grunge. I don't know.
Would have been. I still am. That said,
proto grunge or hair metal.
I'm still hair metal. Yes, but I still.
Once hair metal, always hair metal. Once grunge, always grunge.
I suppose, but I was able to mix the two because
we all that punk grunge.
Yeah.
Cusp.
Well, it was I think they all met at the GNR clubhouse.
Yeah.
Right.
Although I saw Green Day at the what was that place called in Berkeley, and it was like a 200, 300 person venue, and it was freaking amazing.
Right.
Oh, well, I miss those days. Those were fun days. Those were
indeed
great music. Great music. God, the music in the Bay, all the way on the West Coast. Grunge, punk leading into grunge, like X. And like all the bands that led into eventually became Green Day and the Peppers and Nirvana and all. Oh man, that was some good music.
Oh, it's yeah. Well, we'll get there again. I've seen a lot. I've seen more live music in the last probably. Well, besides the fact that I've been on stage doing it like more than ever in my life. Like I've done more singing in the last year.
People are hungry.
Yeah,
people are hungry. People have recognized what's important. If there's a silver lining.
Yes.
To all the craziness of the last couple of decades, it's that people have kind of recognized that.
Yeah. What are you fighting for?
What's
life.
Important? Yeah. What's important?
Okay, I'm gonna get my stories in order because there are a couple of things that happened, including somebody who was claiming
that on particularly.
That Prigozhin died in June, and they just blew up the plane to make this death legal, which I thought was a fascinating take. Yeah, that was my favorite one. Okay, the graves of the Wagnerites were bulldozed.
Saw that.
Wow. Yep. There was another drone strike in Moscow, and then the Robotyne, they have burst through, and apparently there are no rotations.
Robotny. I think it's Robotny.
Sorry, Robotny they have discovered that the Russians have no rotations and no reinforcement. What you see is what you get.
Done. And there's estimations that in another 10 miles, the entire land bridge will be not severed, but under threat of artillery.
Yeah.
They're going to win. They're going to win.
And it's not going to be long.
No question.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be long. And it's going to be bad. Well, anyhow, we'll get into it.
Yes.
Prigozhin is what I have been saying all along.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought Prigozhin was gonna live, or at least be, because we don't know if he's dead, frankly.
Yeah.
I thought he would still be on the scene and be used as Putin's pit bull.
Yeah.
But look, the battle between the power structures within Moscow are going to get more intense, and people are going to fall, and pawns are going to be taken off the board, and all the rest of it. But it still aligns with all what I've been saying all along, is that they're going to lose this war, and no Russian leader survives losing Ukraine and Crimea. This is going to get nasty. Russia's in for a lot of upheaval. This is just the first of it. Anyhow,
bring this in. There we go.
I say just the first of it. This is just the latest iteration.
Right. Yeah, there are two. Welcome back to the show. So, joining us right now is our dear friend Philip Ittner from Ukraine. He's in Kiev right now. And first of all, as we always want to know, how you doing?
Good.
How are the
Fine.
people
We
there
had
doing?
we had a week of celebrations for independence. So morale is high. We had Flag Day on Wednesday, National Day of the flag of Ukraine, and then on Thursday was actually Independence Day, and that was a great day. That was a lot of fun. People were out, and everybody was wearing their traditional clothing, and then Friday into Saturday, we had almost constant air raid sirens.
Right.
I mean, it's just one would come up and, last for however long, 15, 20, 45 minutes, an hour. And then it would go down, and then not 10 or 15 or 20 or an hour later, another one would come up. I mean, it was just this succession of constant air raid sirens, which meant they were lobbing stuff at us. The Ukrainian air defenses do not send out air raid sirens without good reason, not least of which because they don't want people to take them for granted. But what it means is that every time that something came out, an air raid siren was posted, it actually meant that something was being shot at us. So we were under constant attack last night. It just never stops. But
interestingly enough,
it doesn't change anything here.
No. Well, it does. I will say it brings you closer to your Russian comrades, because they are having a very similar experience, it seems, because in the Istra district, which is this area outside of Moscow, they got hit by drones again. And apparently this is from the Telegram channels that I follow about them. It says Istra district, Monolith Cottage Village, just the sound of a whistle and an explosion, just banged hard. I live in Istra. It was strongly audible at 3:02. Explain what happened. I don't understand anything. And then another person wrote, in the suburbs, drone. Why don't they write that the airspace over Moscow is closed? Sheremetyevo and I have not been able to take off for 2 hours. I woke up from the explosions. 2 shots were heard. They wrote on the net, 2 shots were heard. They wrote on the net. Later, tonight our air defenses destroyed a drone on approach in Moscow Istra district. There were no preliminary casualties or damage. Emergency services are working at the scene. The scene of a destroyed drone? That seems to make very little sense. Anyways, airports, 24 flights were delayed, and flights out of Moscow were shut down in that particular area overnight, Saturday into last night into today. It's still, I think they're still out, still shut down because of these drone strikes.
Yep.
Now,
Putin promised stability, and this is not
right. Sure, it doesn't quite fit the bill. No. So there's this other thing too, and obviously we'll take this one with a grain of salt. But I love me some grain of salt, because you were on the air with me. You were live stream with me when Prigozhin died. So the plane went down, and we started seeing the reports. Yeah. Or disappeared.
Whatever happened with Prigozhin happened.
Had his teeth removed and put in somebody else's head, whatever the process is. So So this is.
But I don't know how much it matters. I really don't know how much it matters, because it is an indication that all is not well in the realm. Putin. I'm not kidding. I mean, Putin promised that the chaos of the 90s would never return. And this is worse than the 90s. This is drone attacks. This is prominent people, dying or faking their death, or who ordered it, or whatever. All these questions that, swarm around this event with Prigozhin. It's. I don't know how
much more they can take.
How much weight we should put on any one of these incidents. What it is it's a bigger pattern of the fact that the czar, in the form of Vladimir Putin, is no longer the center of gravity. He is not dictating what is going on. I do not believe. Even if he did order the death of Prigozhin, he had to come down from on high and dirty his hands and order the death of Prigozhin.
Right, and then hide it.
And then hide it, and then pretend that it was, even if somebody else did order it, in the sense of like, who will rid me of this troublesome priest, or Shoigu or Gerasimov, who insisted have serious beef with Prigozhin,
right,
may have, or either insisted or took matters into their own hands,
right,
and Putin will never admit that he didn't give. He will wink and nod at the fact that he approved this, but he may not have. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that no matter what, this exhibits the fact that, again, the center of gravity that is the Tsar, which is the way Russian society is built, is not secure. And when everything is in nice synchronous orbit, and all the various powerful boyars and Siloviki, the strong men, are circling around the center of the universe that is the Tsar, all is fine. But when certain satellite moons start to change their orbit, and then other satellite moons have to change their orbit, well, that's when things get really messy.
There's a very similar thing
the Tsar's supposed to avoid.
Right. There's a very similar thing going on in China right now. It's this mandate of heaven idea that if you have one of these three terrible calamities during the reign of an emperor, that means that heaven has lost faith in this emperor and that they got to go. And there've been all three of them during Xi Jinping's time in office, but and a myriad of others. And it almost gets to the point where, sort of with like the Trump indictments in that crowd, do they count on there being so many that it becomes noise, where you become just numb to it because he can just say, this is the noise of war. This is stuff that happens during war. You don't know anything about war. Shut up and go back to work. And you're a little afraid that he might, because he kills people, kill you too. So everybody does it. That's exactly what's happening in China right now with any factions within the CCP that might not be all in on the Xi Jinping plan.
Well, I will, as always, defer to you on all things Chinese, but I will say, in my expertise in Russia, that this is what has happened, oftentimes, not repeatedly, but enough times that it is a pattern within Russian history, where a weak czar, they'll start to snipe and bite at one another, and it will lead to a change in the regime. And I don't know what that's going to look like, because is Putin, whoever survives the power struggle beneath Putin himself, if they come to him and say, you got to go, will he negotiate some sort of way for him to stay? Because the alternative is basically death. But it's chaos. It's chaos. And Russia, you talk about what is it in China, the three events?
Yeah, three great calamities, essentially. It's loosely translated.
Well, my point has always been that no Russian leader loses what Catherine the Great took, and that is Crimea.
That would be the calamity,
and Ukraine. That would be the loss of that, which is the cornerstone of Russian sense of self as empire. To lose that, and Catherine the Great was a contemporary of George Washington. Let's not keep that. Let's not forget about that. This is deeply ingrained in their sense of identity and sense of self as empire. They're about to lose Ukraine and potentially Crimea. We can talk about that later. So let's put a pin on that. But
we'll get to that. I have a map to show you after the break. We got to take a break real quick, but I want to leave this with people on our way to through the break to think about. There's a former spy named Sergei Chernov, and he put forth this theory of his that Yevgeny Prigozhin was killed in June after the unsuccessful coup attempt. All him going back and forth to Russia and all this stuff was just flap, and then they crashed his plane to, quote, legalize his death. He goes that Prigozhin was killed right after the putsch, somewhere at the end of June, and for a month and a half they were fed fairy tales, photographs, edited stuff. one story. That's why he was in Africa 1 second, and then he was back in Moscow, a day later, and yet there was nobody who saw him down there.
Maybe.
That kind of stuff. But again, he's a spy himself. Yep, it doesn't matter. He's gone.
It's the same symptom of a state in chaos.
Right. That's right. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Every minute you don't tell us why you're here, I cut off a finger. Mine or yours? Yours.
Good question.
Damn.
And I'm already culling questions from the chat.
Yes, I saw a couple in there that are very good. So, yeah, even if he lives, he's dead. It's a great way of putting it. Although there are a bunch of, how many friggin' movies have we seen about, like, guys who used to be in the company, and then they gave them a different identity and they bugged off. There is a version of self-created witness protection that these guys know about and know how to do. And again, even Joe Zlotchevsky, the guy who ran Burisma, bought Cypriot citizenship. Now lives in Cyprus, if he lives at all. That's the thing. He hasn't been seen in 3 years.
Well, this is the other thing about Russia is that they do this kind of stuff where you're supposed to question. You're not on firm footing ever.
Right.
They love this kind of stuff. They love the shadow and the what is truth and what's really happening and who knows and all the rest of it, because it plays into the way power dynamics work in Russia.
We're back in 20.
If you can keep your people confused, you can dominate over them. Thanks, Chicago. It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Welcome back to the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
There are, by the way, I can report to you right now that this afternoon a huge fire has been observed in Kemerovo, Russia. Apparently, it's another fireworks factory. It's just they have fireworks factories everywhere. They love the 4th of July. They hate us, but they love the 4th of July, and they love smoking. And apparently, it's yet another one. It's the area of the fire was at 600 meters. Now it is unknown how big it is. It was a 600 meter wide fire is now spread. Pictures of it here. I'll show you and it's pyrotechnics. That's just happening. Imagine this in Washington D.C. Imagine this is in Alexandria, Virginia. There's a factory district out past the Pentagon. And you look out your window and you see this. And people go, it's just a fireworks factory. I gotta say,
nothing to see here.
Yeah, right. That's right. We need that GIF desperately.
Yeah.
That's happening right now. And by the way, the chat room has got questions for Phil as well. And we're gonna deal with I also want to talk to you about the moves in Robatnya and the way the map is starting to look, and
sure,
and your theories. We started talking about that before. Actually, let's just get that out of the way, because then we'll get into the questions. Because I have a feeling it will bleed on some of those, and I want to show people the map. This is okay.
Well,
so this is the area.
In short,
yeah.
I'm
showing the map online. And this is the area that the Ukrainians have taken past this point, and they are working their way towards Tokmak. There was a question whether they could take Robatnya. They officially have. The Russians are throwing everything they have in the area at that. There is no one behind them because they are just throwing them at that front line. And to that, I have 2 words: cluster munitions. I don't know why they think this kind of infantry fight is going to be successful in a situation like this now, but I don't know what choice they have. And then if they get to Tokmak, that's the artery, that's the road that's going to be cut off. That it goes right around Tokmak. This is the main highway that would bring stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. And then after that, it's just a quick jaunt through the hills to Melitopol.
Melitopol.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, there are some estimates that we've been talking about the severing of the land bridge that lies between Ukrainian positions now and the Sea of Azov. If they could sever the land bridge, the idea is that it's going to be a major wake up call for Russia, and it will really put Crimea at threat. We've been talking about severing the land bridge, and that is obviously the objective. But having said that, in about 10 miles or so, the munitions that the Ukrainians have, both HIMARS and other artillery systems, will be within firing range of the land bridge. So you will be seriously able to disrupt the supply of goods coming down to Crimea, even though you don't occupy that territory. In about 10 miles or so, give or take, the Ukrainians will be able to fire on the land bridge, and that will be very bad for Russian military. I still think, in my humble opinion, that they still need to push to the actual sea and break the land bridge, because that's going to be the catastrophic thing for the Russian psyche. The idea that, oh my God, we may actually lose this crowning jewel within our empire, and what that means, and why did you let this happen, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin?
Yes.
So
so people can know during the direction that they're going, and it's pretty obvious why you would choose this from a strategic and tactical purpose. Is going to Robotny to Tokmak to Melitopol to what's Yakmivka, which is right on this body of water, this lake here. Effectively, you don't have to cross all the land to cut off the land bridge, because on one side is water from the Dnieper, the basin that's there that comes out of the Zaporizhia water, and then this other lake that's down here. That's the thinnest piece of ground between these two areas. And once you cut that off, I guess you blow the Kerch Bridge, and that's that. That they are effectively. You destroy it finally.
Lose their minds,
or you give them
will go absolutely ballistic.
Right,
and I don't know how they will respond, but it will be a panic. You do not lose the territory that Catherine the Great, one of the greatest leaders in Russian history, who established the concept of Russian Empire in truth. Putin. I'm sorry. Peter did a lot, but it was Catherine who built empire.
Right.
You do not lose this territory as a Russian leader and survive. This will be the worst military disaster for Russia, certainly since World War I, the defeat in World War I. But I would argue even worse. This is going to be. This will shock the very core of identity within Russia, because Russia identifies itself as empire. This will be the loss of empire, because it's that which they built upon. He can't survive that. There's no way. So this is a big deal.
On the map I'm showing on the and like I said, I want to get to the questions too, but this is fascinating to me, is that the Donetsk and Luhansk, People's Republic nonsense that they were pushing forward, and that this is already established Russian area that they took.
They don't care about either
on the map. No, and on the map I'm showing online, the dark maroon area would be the places that they had before from 2014, and then the orange is what they took after, and then the rest of it is the yellow part is the rest of the country. There are two places, which is like Krasnokorivka down here. And I believe, let's see, where is it? Yaznyevata, which is this. It's a little
inside. Sound like
there.
You're speaking backwards when you do that.
Well, that's my theory. Is that one of the reasons why the Catholics thought, made the point that the devil speaks backwards is because they always thought of the Russians coming and going yip, and they're like, they're talking devil talk. But anyways, those 2 points, in all seriousness, with all the noise about Robotnya and the other places, the Ukrainians are about to cross into territory that hasn't been there since 2014. They've already broken through back that big chunks of that.
This is going to get really bad
nuts
for the Russians.
Yeah,
and it's going to get nuts. And all the people who have been, it's so frustrating to watch all the people who've been like, oh, it's not the counteroffensive, which I don't even call it counteroffensive. It's an offensive. It's not working and it's doomed. And this, look, what have I been saying all along? Those who have tuned in for the the better part of this conflict. This should not be a surprise to anybody. This is going very badly for the Russians, and it's going to go worse. It's going to get worse. And I'm not surprised by any of this. The Ukrainians,
the
Ukrainians
brother.
landed. The Ukrainians landed troops on Crimea. They had a strike force of special ops that went into Crimea. They're knocking out they're knocking out really powerful rocket systems that
like
are based
S-300s
in Crimea. Yeah, the S-400s.
Or S-400s. Sorry.
It's not going well for the Russians. No. It's not.
And that was Chemoroskovsk. Is that down on this peninsula over here? I think was the edge of this.
Just outside of Sevastopol. Yeah.
Yeah. This business. Well, this down here. Okay, so it's down near Sevastopol.
I think it's down. I think it's down near Sevastopol, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So I mean, this. Yeah, we're in for a bumpy 6 weeks. And the Russians don't have Donald Trump to delay arms shipments to help them.
Yeah, right.
So let's see. We got a couple minutes. Let's take one question before we go. If we got a quick one before the break, and if we have to bleed over, it doesn't matter. It's cool. Yeah, Johnny.
Yeah, let's do it. So I've got the first question from Ed's 3D Tech. Can you ask Philip if 95% of Russian artillery has been destroyed, and is there a labor and military shortage of men?
Yeah, I've heard estimates of these kind of figures before. We don't know. We don't know. Their artillery. Yeah, here's the thing with Russian artillery, their counter battery fire is terrible. It's awful. They fire off and then they're not able to move as quickly, and they're not as responsive as the Ukrainians are. So the Ukrainians fire and then they move real quick. The Russians are not nearly as good at that, and also the Ukrainians have better counterfire capabilities because they have this really interesting system where it's been described as the Uber of artillery. Whereas if a Russian unit fires off a round into Ukraine or Ukrainian held territory, the Ukrainians go, there's Russian fire coming from this grid. Who can do it? And it gets sent out along the entire length of the Ukrainian artillery system. And whoever is closest or whoever is ready mobilized or whoever is in a position to fire back can go, I'll take it. It's me. And they will. And it's an Uber system. Whoever's closest, whoever's ready fires back. And so they can respond to Russian artillery at a fraction of what the Russians do. And that has been hugely damaging for Russian artillery. So a 95, boy, that's a big number. I don't know if it's 95, but it's bad.
Well, I will say this. One of the numbers that we did here that was verifiable, we got to take a break, but one of the numbers we did here, the verifiable, is that each volley they send, the Russians send, is a month of production. And so the question is, how much did they have stored up that was still functional, that wasn't just rotten or had fallen apart, that was sitting ready to be fired leading up to the war, and how many strikes have they sent out of each artillery thing since then? And it seems like at one point they were just letting everything fly, and then it quieted down, and everybody was like, they need to reload essentially, but it wasn't there. Hence, we started hearing the stories about them getting arms from North Korea, from China, private companies in China shipping stuff to them, and Iran possibly. Although the Iranian thing didn't turn out to be true either. And there's, by the way, they have renamed BRICS. It is now Barasucks, because it now has Ethiopia, the UAE, maybe Saudi Arabia, Iran is a possibility. Like it's a mess. Anyways, we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. More of your questions. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Follow Philip Ittner. He's Ittner Philip on X.
Do it.
Not the drug, the actual site. I don't know. He seems happy. Maybe we'll be back. He asked for water. We'll know.
Man, I'm tired of being right. If I start dancing.
That's the dead giveaway. Absolutely.
A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua.
I say Nicaragua.
Huh?
Nicaragua. Barísimo.
He says.
I'm surprised. I'm making the point that I'm surprised he can wrap his lips around Nicaragua.
He can't. He said Nicaragua.
Proverbially.
He said, listen again.
A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua.
Yeah, he said Nicaragua.
Oh, so articulate.
It's one of the few Trump flubs I can't play on the air on radio. Yeah.
When they gaze upon Yosemites.
Can't believe he said that.
I can't believe he didn't keep saying it just out of ego. What a dope.
Yeah. And as a Californian who like Yosemite is like one of my favorite places on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a tonic for me to go there and just like
yes,
what an idiot.
I'm a big fan of Yosemite Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Great to be with you, Dick.
Yosemite Sam.
What?
Yosemite Sam.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay.
I like wood.
That's why you go to Yosemite.
You and me both.
Deeper and longer.
Oh boy.
Sorry. I don't have my little pop-up thing for Phil to see it on this screen. Otherwise, I'd show it I'd do it again.
Oh, you know what you got to do is you have to. Here's my suggestion for you, by the way. Take it or leave it. Go and get a copy of David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia and clip out the scene where the doctor arrives at the hospital and all the Turkish soldiers are dying, and he runs up to Lawrence and he thinks Lawrence is an Arab, and he's like, "This is outrageous!"
Right?
Outrageous!
Right?
You gotta clip that. You gotta clip that. And every time somebody goes, "That's
outrageous!" Yes.
Outrageous!
Right. That's a good idea. I could probably.
We're back in 20.
I can clip. I can actually make him like cut out the background. Maybe I'll have to look, because the problem with those cutting people out of those kind of backgrounds is it's all sheets and tans. Like everybody's wearing flowing. It's very hard to roto.
I love that. This is outrageous.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right, before we get into the rest of the questions, and I'm very excited to get into them, I have my own question for our dear friend Philip Enter. Did you see the mugshot, and what did you think?
Yes, I did.
Are there nesting dolls being made of it right now? That's just the same one over and over and over again.
I'm gonna commission that. I'm gonna absolutely get some.
I'll send you 4 pictures that he hates. And you'll start with the mugshot, which he thinks is cool, and then take it off, and each one inside gets like all the way to the Harpo one where he's like,
I probably can get that done.
You probably can get that done. That's pretty great. Yeah. So, what was your thought on the occurrance and the situation?
I mean, look,
how they feel about it.
What, the Ukrainians?
Yeah. Did anybody say anything? Yeah.
Of course. No, not really. They've got bigger things on their agenda. More important things. My own personal thing as an American watching it is that this is great. This, in addition to the demise of Putin, authoritarianism is being rejected globally.
Right.
And I think that's good. And we have we owe a debt to the Ukrainians. This could have gone a very different way if the Ukrainians didn't have the backbone to stand up to authoritarianism and reject it outright, and would be willing to fight and die for the principle of that. That's a big deal. It's the eternal optimist in me, but I think authoritarianism has hit its high water mark, and just like Trump and his upset baby face, mugshot, or whether it's Putin running scared from the various people that are going to probably eventually put a knife in his back.
Right.
It's people don't want to live that way. People don't want to live under authoritarianism. It's not a popular idea. So it's all part of a big picture for me, and I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it was just fun watching the right people get upset about it, and I do mean right, but also
that too.
Just watching them kind of get all wound up. Johnny, let's take another question.
Right on. I've got one from Eric Piakergaski, who told me how to pronounce his name. Any thoughts on report info from Sarah Ashton Cirillo about UAF progress towards Tavria and Russian losses?
I mean, Sarah is in uniform as a public affairs officer for the armed forces of Ukraine. So consider your source.
Right.
Having said that, I know Sarah personally, and she is not. I would be more inclined to believe what she says than anything coming out of Russia. Yes, she talks. She supports advances and reports on advances of Ukrainian armed forces, and that's her job. But at the same time, also just living here myself and talking to people from the armed forces and soldiers that are back from the front, it is not easy. It is a hard job. They are under really, I mean, it's difficult what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they don't have low morale. They're not coming off the line saying all is lost. They are coming off the line saying things are bad and difficult and hard, but they're making progress. And so I think that's what Sarah reflects.
Which is the opposite of what apparently Russians coming off the line are saying, because of the reports that I've seen of people, like Russian soldiers, they're being treated when they return home as if they're losing a war that they shouldn't be losing. Yeah. It's their fault.
Take into account the Russian soldiers that surrender or are taken prisoner and the information that they're giving as well.
Right.
So that's, obviously consider their POWs, but at the same time, we've heard a lot of reports of how bad it is within the ranks in Russia. So I'm not pessimistic about what Ukraine is going through. They're going to win this war. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to come at a high price, but they're going to win, and they're going to be free, and they're not going to live under Moscow's thumb. And all of those things are good things. So.
Right. I just for the record too, and I wanted to show you this real quick. One of the sites that I follow a bunch of these like awful Telegram sites from the sort of pro-Russian side of it, just so I can see what their take is on some stuff. And I do it with, like I follow Sidney Powell on Telegram, and all these crazy because that's where they let their freak flag fly, right? And even the probably one of the most supportive sites that I look at is admitting that they're like, oh crap, there are Ukrainian tanks in this area, where our soldiers are retreating. And this is from a guy, by the way, who on the regular does the Russian Rosconcert donated 200 sets of acoustic systems for cultural institutions in the LPR. Like that happened today. That really happened, but also this is while the war is going on, we're just having the Russians they're opening schools and treating the LPR and the DNR great, and it's just garbage. Meanwhile, whenever he posts some truth, it is so diametrically opposed. It is literally everything's fine. Oh my God, this building's on fire. How did they allow this to happen? I hate this. Somebody must put a stop to this. And then everything's fine. It goes right back to it. It's psychotic. And that's where I think it's, it's somewhere like 3 or 4 people are doing it, and one person only pops on to run the account and goes, what the hell? And the rest of them are like, what? I'm in Macedonia.
Got another one?
So, yeah. Let's grab another question.
Yeah. Where'd it go? From Blue Karma. Can you ask Phil if he knows who other passengers were on the other airplane and why they were arrested?
Oh, the other airplane. There was another airplane that landed in Moscow. There were 2 Wagner planes that landed, or that were headed together. They were both registered to Wagner. The one with Yevgeny Prigozhin on it, allegedly blew up, fell out of the sky, and then the other one landed in Moscow shortly thereafter. So the question is what happened to, I guess, the people that were on that flight? Is that what it was talking about? I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's more of the chaos. It's more of the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to get worse. And also, it's more of the misdirection and the confusion and the what is true, what is really happening. This is how Russia conducts itself, and certainly Putin's Russia conducts itself.
Right.
You don't know what's happening. You don't know what is truth. And it is, and again, it is indicative of a system that no longer works. Truth was always an unsure thing in Putin's Russia, but the fact that it's undeniable that people are dying, that planes are falling out of the sky, that buildings are blowing up, that's undeniable, and that's what Putin promised the Russian people would not happen again, that there wouldn't be this kind of chaos. And it's just it's all symptoms of the same core problem, and that is that Russia knows it's going to lose this war, and there is chaos coming, and chaos is already here.
Oh yeah,
there's more chaos.
Phil, I up on the screen right now, and obviously people in the radio aren't going to be able to experience this the same way they can on the live stream. So like, subscribe, and all that. But it's a picture of the explosion that's happening right now in Kemerovo. It says a pyrotechnics warehouse is on fire. Right, that's the story that Moscow has put out. And so there's video coming out of the explosion. It's relatively close to it. And I don't know if it's just me, and maybe you guys can take a look at it as well, but it looks like to me that somebody has poorly After Effects some fireworks over a lower corner of the fire to make it look like fireworks are cooking off. That because they fall in front of the pipe at one point, they're a different color, the section of the fire, and it moves at a different speed than the rest of the smoke. They added fireworks to this explosion to make it look like it's a fireworks factory.
Mm-hmm. They're desperate.
That's amazing to me. That is one of the worst jobs I've ever seen of just like quick overlay.
It's all falling apart. That's why when I say okay, so going back to the last question and asking about Sarah. So Sarah is, again, a public affairs officer for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. She has a job to do. She has a responsibility.
Yeah.
But she doesn't sell you a bill of goods that tells you up is down and down is up and left is right and right is left. That's what the Russians do. That's why I would take with a grain of salt anything coming from any public affairs officer from any armed force in any conflict. But I am more inclined to believe her because there's a pattern and there is stability and there is at least some transparency taken into consideration that you have to have operational security, so you can't tell everybody everything. But the lies and the misdirection and the confusion and the chaos that is getting to an almost crescendo in Russia is and it's going to get worse, is just, you cannot deny, any objective observer of what is happening in Russia, you have to recognize the place is falling apart. It's the stress of what is happening and the lack of stability and security and all that. None of this in the 90s, in the aughts, when Putin was really at his apex, none of this would have been acceptable. This would have been caused. I mean, I lived in Moscow when they brought down the apartment buildings,
Right.
And that was a huge thing. This is this constant destabilization that's happening. It's not sustainable. It's
right.
not
Well, that's where that is often where I wonder where if at a certain point they can't take, they just simply, like, people can't take it, so they shut their ears off. We had this during the beginning of the Iraq War, and there was a certain a chunk of Americans who the argument about whether or not we should be in Iraq or shouldn't be in Iraq, or we should be in Afghanistan or we shouldn't be in Afghanistan, and whether it was the Saudis or Osama bin Laden and the mix of and all the mix of the story made everybody just go brrr. You know what I mean? Like, they eventually, a chunk of them. Now, I'm sure that's true of some Russians, but at some point, like, there were people marching in the street. The biggest, that's what the news famously ignored. One of the marches that I was in Los Angeles, that, when they had we did these big anti-Iraq war marches, but the groundswell was there. Like, it was obvious it was unpopular, and it so unpopular it affected our attitude towards helping Ukraine. That's how unpopular the Iraq war was. Whereas in Russia, it's hard to say whether, because everybody who does say something is jailed or scared off or has to flee, like that woman who held up the sign in the beginning of the war on the news, the editor, who had to flee with her 12-year-old daughter.
Or the hundreds of thousands that fled to, the Baltics or Georgia or, wherever to avoid conscription. Yeah, no, I'm sure it's much more widely unpopular than we know, because it's, you end up in prison, or you end up getting the know what kicked out of you. Yeah. No, it's all the same thing. Russia is in real serious trouble because they're going to lose this war, and they're in denial about it, which is why I say maybe, the severing of the land bridge, not just disruption of supplies coming on the land bridge, but actually breaking the land bridge so that people cannot deny the possibility they very well may lose Crimea. And that will be a shock to the system, because the Russian power structure has been trying so hard to say, don't worry. At some point, it's going to be undeniable, and it's going to be bad, and it's all the same symptom of the chaos.
We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this with a happy ending, actually, and more of your questions for Philip. We'll be back. By the way, while you're in the break, subscribe on twitch.tv/HalSparks, and of course at infotainmentwars.com. And of course, if you're on the Facebook in the Facebook realm, we have a Facebook page, and you can watch the show there and that kind of stuff. It's all fun. It's a good time. I'm just saying, something to do while you listen to the ads and help the people who support the station. Okay, bye. We'll be back. I don't know if I have to blur this. We'll see. But apparently, people called the police in Moscow because they thought this was a grenade.
I can't see it. What is it?
It's it's a device lonely truckers would use. It is a pocket. Arguably, I would say, technically speaking, it's a pocket vulva, but there's another name for it. And it apparently,
That's
it
funny.
was and let's
someone in the
there's
chat called it pocket pus.
Oh well, I don't know if I have a
Back in 20.
which is the third worst kind.
They're so screwed.
Yeah.
I don't understand the people who are like, oh, there's no way the Ukrainians will win. Yeah, there's a lot of ways the Ukrainians are going to win.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, it's pretty much inevitable at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to be coming back.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
Yay!
Hooray! All right, this isn't a happy ending. This is a creepy ending. I'm just going to throw this up there. Apparently, wasp spiders have been spotted in Moscow everywhere, and it is scaring more people than the drone strikes or whatever. They're because they have yellow on the back. A lot of people think that the Ukrainians are sending them this is a new type of bio warfare, is that they're dropping spiders everywhere. I would argue if you're going as far as terrorism goes, I would qualify like hitting a country with like giant plumes of baskets of spiders drop from the sky. Oh God, yeah, not good. Oh, ouch. You can't install. Yeah. So, anyways,
ridiculous.
We have a bunch of questions and obviously still left, but I also want to quickly about the happy ending part of it. The manufacturing index on the United States continues to climb. We have been under 4% unemployment for the longest stretch in 50 years. We have the lowest inflation of the entire industrialized world. The only countries that have lower inflation than us use shells as their currency, and even they, are amazed at the price of eggs. So I'm just saying, overall, I would say this is it's a good day to count your blessings in a world of a lot of reality. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people, and of course the mugshot. On unhappy news, I wouldn't say sad, but melancholy to report that Bob Barker has passed at the age of 99 years old.
Get your pets spayed
and neutered. Or neutered, yes.
Someone in the chat, I'm sorry I don't have the credit for you, said that he got as close to 100 as he could without going over.
That's amazing.
That's
great.
Good joke. Celebrate
well done.
life with a little bit of humor.
That's right. And he lived a good long life. This is not a situation where that's a sweet thing and good for him.
And he was a lovely man.
Mozart in the chat. Well done, Mozart.
Yeah, excellent.
I mean, his cameo in what's the
Happy Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore, yeah.
Gilmore is just
Happy
brilliant.
Gilmore.
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah, I heard that was kind of a spontaneous cameo too.
I had heard that. Yeah.
Still, he was literally golfing at that place?
He was literally golfing, and he was like, "Wait, what are you guys filming?"
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him,
"What if we do this?"
He went for it.
Yeah. So, anyways, we got a bunch more questions. Let's get to it, and then I've got some just post show. I've got some silliness to share with you guys as well, but I'll keep it tight. But go ahead,
so
Johnny.
From Connie Kelly, I've got, please ask Phil how Ukraine is preparing for their second winter at war. Is this their Vietnam?
No. They'll be fine. We went through the last one. We'll go through this one.
Mm-hmm.
And we have better air defenses now. We have better, more supplies for sustaining power and heating and all the rest of it. Nope, they'll be fine. We made it through the last one. We'll make it through this one.
Right.
We've got a question from John G. What are Phil's thoughts about Belarus reported to be willing to use nuclear weapons?
They're not going to use nukes.
No.
The second they use nukes, it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
The day unless they go full
they lose
nuclear
everybody
and
they lose
destroy
China.
Everything.
They lose China's
everybody.
support. They lose Iran's support,
and NATO steps in, and there's a no-fly zone, and it's unless you go.
Their ships stop everywhere.
Nuke.
Like there is not a single no Russian ship transports anything.
Oh, yeah.
Cats and dogs living together.
Mass hysteria.
I mean, and also look, and also keep in mind that if they were to use the one place that they might use a nuke would be here in Kiev, but using a nuke here in Kiev means also destroying the heritage of what it is to be Russian,
right?
Because Russian culture was built and born out of Kievan roots, so there are places of enormous cultural, historical importance to the Russians, and if they nuked Kiev, I think their own people would rise up against.
Well, it's similar to like what if Cuba if Russia or Cuba together had invaded Florida and had taken over large swaths of it, the United States is not going to nuke Florida to get rid of them, no matter what. And yeah, it's not. No,
it's saber rattling.
It is. It's meant to scare.
And as I say, it's meant to scare, and it's meant to intimidate, and it's bully tactics. And if you don't stand up to a bully, he'll just keep doing it. But moreover than that, they know that unless it's a full exchange of nukes, that if they have a limited exchange, it's the day after they do it, they're done. They're finished. So I'm not.
And I have said for a long time that Russia figured out a long time ago that it's like cheating using the rules, where you use the concept of mutual assured destruction and the fear that it'll escalate into a nuclear war means you can do anything short of it, and everybody's afraid that they might cross that line. They might cross that line, so we can do anything. So they were able to invade Chechnya and Georgia and Ukraine, do all their crap that they do in Africa or Syria and all that stuff. And
you know what it is? It's the sheriff in Blazing Saddles pointing the gun at himself. Don't do it. Don't you mess with me.
He's just so crazy. I think he'll do it.
I'll do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Baby, you are so.
Not worried.
Right. All right, let's grab another one before we run out of time. Yeah.
All right, this one's from our mod, Andrea. What does Philip think about Ukraine chief of intel officer of Ukraine saying it's impossible for them to return to Crimea without military operations?
Budanov? Well, Budanov knows what he's talking about. I mean, I think he's right. I don't think there is any way that Crimea is taken back from Russian control without a clash of arms.
a barrel for
Brent. Ukrainian troops will be fighting Russian troops on the Crimean Peninsula. I would expect it. And now it's war, and all things are possible. You know, maybe if Russia collapses, or maybe if the forces on the Crimean Peninsula are so starved of supplies that they're not fighting capable. Lots of different things might happen. But Budanov is a very smart man, and he's a very capable man. And if he says that, I think there's a very good chance that, we'll see fighting on the peninsula.
By the way, there's something that's happening behind the scenes that I think is very, like, people should keep an eye on as well, is that the U.S., in an attempt to kind of re-maneuver the Iran deal, for example, has lightly eased oil sanctions against Iran, allowing some of their oil to get back to market, mainly as an attack on Russia, and it has absolutely worked. Their output is very high, and they've also eased the sanctions on Venezuela because, again, by comparison, Russia being the monster, everybody else looks like a kitten in comparison, and so we've got a sense of perspective in what's important right now, and that's a fascinating.
And this is a war we have to win.
That's right. We're out of time. Follow Philip Ittner on X, Ittner Philip, and watch his vlogs. I just watched his last one on Independence. It's great. And Johnny Million, it's Johnny Million on Twitch.tv. So check it out. It's Johnny Million. Subscribe, become a Patreon subscriber, patreon.com/HalSparks. See you next week.
I've actually got to get running, gents.
I understand. Alrighty. I'm only gonna show you two things real quick. One is that's this thing. Global oil markets, U.S.-Iran deal is already happening, and U.S. in talks with Venezuela, faint hope of tattered oil fields. The Chevron, they're gonna replace all the Russian oil within a year. All of it. Wow. Every ounce of Russian oil on the world market will no longer be necessary, and we won't even have to pop new holes in our national parks to do it. And we're going to stop using as much of it. That now the other thing I have to switch changes. I know you have to run off. I'll try to do this quickly. Where is it? Where is this guy? Meanwhile, in the Russian, here's another one. There's where is it? Another building on fire. This is in Moscow. Just off the highway. Just burning or whatever. These are those spiders, just so I could creep everybody else out. And then, I'm not going to show you that because that's good. And then they're all trying to impress everybody that, oh my God, if you walk up to this building, this animation plays. Buildings on fire,
doesn't.
spiders raining from the sky, and then if you just walk up, it's amazing. And oh my God, it looks so real. That's so crazy.
That's also bull.
Oh
That's
my
also
God.
bull.
You know, do you have any idea how
It's
Chinese
Back
this
to the
is?
Future.
Yeah, this is
Back to the Future.
This is nobody's wearing
That's-
special glasses.
I call BS. I call
Yes.
BS.
Well, China
I don't believe it for a second.
China does these things, so they're making them for the Russians right now.
Yeah.
And then there's the jacket that I'm going to buy,
They're making a video,
Johnny,
but that's not a real
which
store
looks
that
like
you can
melted
walk up
pizza.
to and it
I don't
looks-
know what's happening. So, anyways, I know Johnny's got to go.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Take care,
peace.
Johnny.
Everybody.
See you next time, and
See you next time.
bye.
Yeah.
And cheers, everybody. Thanks so much, Phil. Appreciate it. All right, hold on.
All
Let
right,
me get
man.
you in here.
Yep. Talk to
We
you
will-
on Wednesday.
Yeah, we will talk again. Yes. All right.
Cool.
Bye.
All good.
Cheers.
All right,
Thanks.
buddy. Thanks. See you
Cheers.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye. And then chat room. I'll bring you guys in for a moment if I can. Say hi. There you are. And you shrank. Why did you shrink? Why did you? What happened? What did you do? Why would you do that? Thanks, guys. There's so many stories that I wanted to cover today that it was one of those news days where there was like no way I was going to crowbar this stuff in there. It's just not possible. I'm going to show you something real quick though. So remember how I told you that Donald Trump has this legal agreement with the people, the SPAC behind Truth Social. How do you put it? Whatever. This is in here, I think.
This isn't social media. This is Trump media.
Right. So this is not social media. This is Trump media. Apparently, he was sharing a glass with Larry Kudlow. I didn't punk Johnny. I know. I showed him the thing at the beginning. We coordinated something before the show started. We'll get there. He's got this agreement with him that he's not going to post on social platforms or whatever. But he's got a Telegram channel, and on the Telegram channel, he puts the same shit at the same time. I don't understand it. What is the deal? So he puts his mugshot up, and then he talks about how low the ratings were for who cares? The second tier and merely pretenders to the throne. Right. Some of the answers were so bad, with delivery even worse. Yeah. It's not so much that they were wrong. It's that they were wrong and not charismatic. If anything, this man has mastered the art of using charisma while being horribly wrong. So yes, so technically he is breaking this agreement. I don't know what the fuck, why anybody, they always make a big deal because he posted this on Twitter, which is effectively a violation of that agreement. And it's the one thing he put up, which is just because he needs the money. So it's a fundraiser. And that's why he probably said, I can do fundraising things. And this is a fundraiser. I sent people to the website because we need fucking money. That was. Meanwhile, let me shut this off so that I don't have leave that page. Here's one of his other. Why is there, and this is one of his best poems, I think. Why is there so much murder in Atlanta? Why is there so much violent crime? People are afraid to go outside to buy a loaf of bread. Well, the criminals only like bread. That's the problem. Apparently, the criminals are all carbo loading. One big reason is that failed District Attorney Fonnie Willis, who is campaigning and fundraising off of Get Trump, much like the others, which also, if she's able to fundraise, then maybe people think it's worth it. Doesn't have the time, money, or interest. Well, if she doesn't have the money, then I mean... So basically, like, going after you is cheap because you certainly don't have to send cars full of guys with guns anywhere. You can just, it's mostly paperwork. Yeah, I guess so. Most of the investigation happens in an air-conditioned room, sorting through documents. She didn't have the time or the money or interest to go after real criminals, even the really violent ones that are destroying Atlanta and its once beautiful culture and way of life. Its once beautiful culture and way of life. Can you imagine if anybody put a fucking microphone in a room where Donald Trump is speaking frankly about the people of Atlanta? This is yet another sad day in America. Sad day in America. And then here is 231 million views and still counting. Okay, he thinks his interview is the biggest video on social media ever, more than double the Super Bowl. That's because the standard on X is now if you just scroll by a video and watch a second of it, you have watched it. Please excuse me, I have to start getting ready to head down to Atlanta, Georgia, where okay. And this is the
question. So if the protest didn't work, you got elected anyway. Yeah. Impeachment didn't work twice, obviously.
Well, it did actually. The only reason the second one, I don't want to reiterate this, but sometimes you miss things you could have said the first time because there's so much bullshit. But it's pretty obvious that the second impeachment, if he hadn't already lost the election, the Republicans would have voted to have him removed from office. They just got out of it easy because they're like, oh shit, well, okay, we're going to impeach him for this, but we don't have to vote him out because he's already on his way. Fuck. Hold on. Here we go.
Indictment is not working. Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of last year, your numbers went
Yeah, that's why he's excited about it. I mean, I'm beginning to think he's turning himself in.
Up.
Just for the money. At one point, you know how he used the name John Barron and pretended to be his own PR? He's going to pretend to be his own fucking snitch. Real quick. If I turn out to be the person that I'm turning in, do I still get the money? Why? No reason. Just, can you make the check out to John Barron LLC? I have to, my accountant says that any large sums of money I have to take in the form of... I would not rule that out.
They can indict you 20 times and you're not gonna lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well, so, it makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
I don't know. These people are crazy. They're so crazy. These people are so crazy. Are they crazy? They're crazy. Hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. And I don't mind that he's having a hard old time. He's kind of a dick, and he deserves it. And I'm downloading that video so I can use it later because I'm having fun. All right, there we go. We'll go Trump, Tucker, blah. Saved. Yeah, he just posted the whole and again, he did this, if I might, he did this, Tucker on X, and Tucker's got basically a contract with Elon Musk, right? To make money off these things, no matter what the fuck he says. And it's supposed to be, just for that site. And Trump just grabbed it and posted it on his Telegram and on Truth Social in pieces. Like an asshole. He can't lift his feet out of the grass. He just did a Pilates class, you dumb fuck. Here's a good idea. They always talk about, these fuckers need to fight. Both of them are too old to fight. It's not what I want to see my leaders do. But a planking contest, that I would pay to see. Now, obviously, Trump would have an advantage because his belly would still touch the floor. And so he could be, you'd have to check to make sure he was resting. I don't know. You'd have to heat the floor or something. Yeah, Biden's in a wheelchair, according to this asshole. Right. Meanwhile, the only time we see him standing is when he's at one of the rallies, which gets shorter and shorter and lamer and lamer. Another campaign contribution, crooked Joe Biden. Yeah, he thinks this is a campaign contribution because, well, I guess there's a great way you could. I can think of a great way that. Let's see, it's right here somewhere. There's a way that he could cut off a lot of that funding. I think it's where is it?
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
You know what I mean? That'd probably do it, right? You think? Yeah. And let's see. There were a couple of things I wanted to show you that I couldn't necessarily show you while we were doing. Let's see there's a bunch of stuff. By the way, I'm going a little bit long this morning, but I hope that's okay with you guys. I just wanted to show you a couple things that when I'm on the air, it's a little weird when I'm showing you like video elements and that kind of stuff, or images of stuff, because, yipes. What? So here's these are Russian TikTokers. They film these videos of these guys like giving them hell, yelling sort of like "Take that, you Ukrainian bastard" stuff. And he's look at him, one guy firing over it without looking, and the other guy. Your heads are both up above the line. You do realize that the point of blind fire is to keep your eyes out of the brain. Yeah. And meanwhile, this guy's like, yeah, you big gay person, you bunch of gay liking people, and then he's like, is this broke? Is this thing on? Yeah. So. Dude, you're blocking the shot. Dude, you're blocking the shot. Dude, move. Meanwhile, off camera, there's a guy just beating a snare drum. Like, don't waste the bullets. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat. Rat-a-tat. Dude, you keep saying, you can't say pew, pew, pew when you're actually firing. It's not a good idea. So, yeah. And then, where is it? This is fine. I wanted to find something. Beyond the fire stuff that I was able to show you guys earlier, the one thing we didn't get to show you was the, I don't know if I can actually show you this. Let's see. Yeah, this is, yeah, they tend not to like it when I air this kind of stuff on you. Yeah, I can't show you that. Boo! They can show some of it on the news, but I can't. What the hell? Okay, there's I'm finding it. Don't worry. Because there's oh god, there's so much stuff. Yeah, here you go. This might be a bit much for some of you. As far as hold on, I got to scroll it back so we can start from the beginning. This is what the Russians are fighting against. So there he goes. That's the that's what they're worried about, that they're going to exploit children and teach them how to dance. I will say that this is a good sign when everybody thought the trend was turning, that the European Union buildings have been lighting up with Ukrainian flags out of support. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. Which is a nice sign as well. And there was what was I going to show you? Oh yeah, so this is the weird part. I don't know how much I buy this one, but it is indeed a T-10 from 1954, and indeed the Russians are unloading said tank from a truck, presumably to be used for some shit. Now, I don't know how many they have of these things, but I mean, as cannon fodder goes, I suppose they're okay. I mean, one of the things, as stupid as it is, that you would think this would actually be a functional vehicle, if you don't care about your soldiers, you could absolutely have a bunch of them just drive it out into a field and make it a target, and use the targeting of this slow-moving, shitty tank as a way of finding out where the shots came from and then return fire. I mean, it's awful, but I wouldn't put it past them, right? That makes sense. Because again, a lot of these times you have to ask yourself, what would you do if you were evil? And then then what they're doing starts to make sense. This is the part that's really fucked up. Russian minefields in Ukraine are the size of West Germany. That's how big Ukraine is a country, by the way. There are huge minefields in eastern Ukraine. It's created problems for the Ukrainian army, and there is not enough appropriate equipment to overcome them. They're approximately the size of West Germany. Commander of the Aerial Reconnaissance Group, Madyar, notes that minefields are the main reason for the losses of armed forces of Ukraine during the counteroffensive. They're not receiving fire. And by the way, cluster bombs do help set these things off because they toss dirt and that weight will set them off. Unless they're shitty and they just lay there because they're horribly designed, which is the other factor. Like, this is where bad production actually helps you, I suppose, in terms of how Russia's doing. And yeah, here's a picture of one. See them? They're not even burying them. Because some of them, you bury the ones you're trying to kill troops with. The other ones, you could just throw them out on the ground like you would on a road so that fast-moving vehicles can't come. That means you've retreated. That means you're bugged the fuck out and you're just trying to keep the advancing forces. You want to slow them down a little bit so you can get the shit out of there. There they are. These are the... Fuck. Just like, yeah, just awful. Now, granted, those are certainly easier to clean up after this is all fucking over. And let's see. Here's a couple of, I'll leave you with this. Here's a couple of just scenes from Ukraine and the surrounding, and I think there might even be a couple from Poland. I have some of those stamps. Very proud to say. Somebody got some friends. Friends. That's hilarious. I don't know what that says. I do know what that says. It's a good one. It's a good shirt. Oh, this is the dude who's opening a fight in the street. I can't click too far on these things because sometimes we encounter let's just say a bit of awful. And let's see. Yeah, there's so much to fucking cover today. I could have gone off on just the Africa stuff for a fucking week. It's starting to pile up. The number of active news stories. It is wars and rumors of wars. The rapture's coming. The rapture's here. Am I gone? Am I naked? Am I in the sky? Am I on a cloud? Are my pants and stuff laying on the ground? Some places we all go to heaven naked, but it's not pervy at all. The rapture's coming. Wars and rumors of wars. Has anybody been alive during a time when there weren't? Should we? Let's take a trip down memory lane to this dickhead, if I may. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, Lynn Wood, a man who, even though he's being disbarred and is being sued by his former law firm, has somehow managed to dodge being part of this Kraken lawsuit because he's just too fucking nuts.
God planned it.
He did. God planned it. It's all planned out.
He plans every detail of your life. He knows how.
Right. He knows. He wants Trump to stress out and suffer at his age. Huh.
How many hairs are on your beautiful head?
I mean, I think you could just take it for granted and just focus on other stuff.
And he uses your sins and he uses your shortcomings to teach you.
Gee, it's almost as if I have a symbol that represents a very similar philosophical idea, except that it's about yourself. That every aspect of yourself, your distractions and your hobbies and your art and your greatness and your weakness and stuff makes up your whole person, and it is the tug and pull between those things that makes you the person that you are. Anyways, the point I was showing in this video is that he says Trump is still president.
So that when the time comes that he's ready and you've been learning, watch out for this next move. He's going to rebirth you into the spirit world and create exactly the person that he intended you to be. There's your cue. Cue.
Oh, that's your cue. Cue. Get the fuck out of here. Why would he have to rebirth you? What? First of all, why isn't it your own fucking responsibility? I should save this for a Sunday, but good Lord. So stupid. That's from Linwood's Twitter feed, or I mean his Telegram feed. Let's see. 2024 arrest. The 2024 arrest about stopping the weaponized government. Okay, blah blah blah. Okay, hang on. This is Jonathan Turley. Brian Kilmeade just said on Fox that Victor Shokin told him in the interview that no one had asked him for an interview despite his central role in the alleged Biden corruption scandal. First of all, during an interview, how'd they arrange the interview? Did he ask? Secondly, Giuliani went over there to interview him. They just didn't use it because it didn't work. Shokin also said, in contradiction to many in Congress, that his office was investigating Burisma and expanding. Yeah. And he would say otherwise. He was, yeah. It wasn't. We didn't indict or move forward on it. We were expanding. That's what we were investigating. We were just expanding the investigation into other areas that didn't involve Burisma at all. It's obviously just his account, obviously, but there are now serious contradictions that Congress should resolve. We must vote. Okay, and then she puts this shit on the end of it. Fucking gibberish. Who cares? If he could have convicted him, he would have. Anyways, Marjorie Taylor Greene posted that. That's on her. That's her shit. She fills that. She does all this stuff. Fannie Willis has weaponized the thing and that. This is a witch hunt by the Communist Democrats. It's election interference against Joe Biden's top political opponent. So basically, here it is. Congratulations. She has managed to hit all of these are the talking points. These are they. If we can, this is soup. This makes it abundantly fucking clear. There you go. That's succinctly what it is. These are all, she hits all four beats. It's a witch hunt. That's the phrase used. Communist Democrats, election interference, Joe Biden's top political opponent. That's it. It's like she's got somebody going, just like rubber stamping these. So lame. But that's it. I mean, also, it's not a witch hunt. It's a criminal investigation, and he was found guilty. But I'm just saying, witch hunts didn't have grand juries that agreed with them. It was just like three little girls screaming until they burned some midwife. Or, or somebody who was having an affair with the... Thanks, Captain Turp. I threw a bit in the mouth of my ADD and made it my biatch. So, this is crucial. That they have those beats. First of all, the witch hunt is not a witch hunt. There were real witch hunts, and they were based on ephemeral, beyond the knowing, unfalsifiable allegations. And then Communist Democrats is she just has to attach that because Democrats isn't enough. She has to say Communist Democrats. And do I believe that there are some Communist Democrats? Yes, there are probably 4 of them. Are they in elected office? No. Are there some that view themselves as socialist Democrats, if you really pinned them down, yes. Are they really socialists? No. They just believe in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and maybe a universal health care, a single payer system by the federal government. That's not socialism or communism, really, because it's taxation through representation. Even if the United States creates an NHS like the UK has, it's still not socialism. It's still we vote for it. Socialism is not democratic, and democratic socialism can't. It's an oxymoron. But if you vote for a program and you say we allocate, it's like saying that we've socialized national security, right? Because we have a military, right? We all agree we could be in danger from an outside force, so we're going to pool our money together and make a military. That does not make it a socialist military. We've agreed that that's a good expenditure for our tax dollars as a society. It's not socialism. I don't know how. It's silly. Yeah, it's public works, and that's not. Yeah, it's silly. And again, nobody even knows what those fucking words mean. Even capitalist doesn't mean what it used to, especially when you can have a gold mine between your fucking ears and a 14-year-old kid can create an app and put it on the App Store and never, ever have to dig anywhere to find a gold nugget and make more money than anybody who ever founded an industry in the 1900s. It's not the same thing. So, anyways, we're arguing language. It doesn't quite matter. The important thing is, what are your values? And that's what democratic taxation is all about. You have a say, you have taxation with representation. That was one of the fundamental aspects of our society. And that's what we have when we create, even if we create a single payer system that everybody kicks in on, we go, look, our biggest fear, infrastructure is not socialist, because the kings and queens and monarchs and dictators have infrastructure. You don't have a say in it. It's not so, it isn't. It is because nothing that every possible, yes, socialism is an economic, not a political system. I agree. Yes. And it has, and even then, you have to build it through the ground up through stuff. That's what makes it different from communism, is that you have to do like workers' co-ops, which all the people who want to take companies and turn them into co-ops never seem to want to come up with an idea and start a co-op that grows big. How about try that? Prove your concept. Again, it's one of those things like the Bill Hicks bit about, if you think you can fly, take off from the fucking ground. Don't jump off a roof. If you could fly, you could just do it. Same thing. Okay, if worker co-ops work, then form one. And I'd be rooting for you. Seriously. But you don't get to take somebody else's thing. It's, again, this goes to the Marx idea. Marx was pushing the idea that only after capitalism industrializes a society, then can it move to socialism and then communism. Well, that's like saying the only way you can get to true vegetarianism is to grow up on an all beef diet until you're the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then you can go vegan. And that makes you a true. It's so stupid. It's such a leechy mentality, and it makes no sense. Again, start from scratch. That's again why a lot of these assholes run for president instead of mayor or something like that, and show that, like, hey, in our town we're going to start a, like, even the Libertarian Party runs into this. They're like, I'll be a libertarian mayor, and then never works. So, but they'll go, well, fuck it. If we run for mayor, everybody will see our shit doesn't work. So let's run for, for president and just pretend it works. There is a pretense, and I think Marianne Williamson and RFK are kind of floating on this. But there's a bunch of people, including Trump, I would argue, that ran on this idea that my ideas have validity simply because I'm running for president. Like, they have to be worthwhile, or I wouldn't be running for president on them. I would do something smaller and give it a try, like an adult. But it gives them the illusion of, that they have some sort of fundamentals or some sort of foundation. when they absolutely fucking do not. Yeah, Prigozhin thought he could fly. Obviously, it was a mistake. Now, let's see. Is this the Russian? Yeah, this is the Russian thing. Hope I didn't get shut down on one of these sites because of the yeesh. That's good. Here we go. Here we go. Put this, and I'll put this in here. You guys can enjoy this one little moment. I guess I have to open up the whole size of it because it won't fit. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of those days. It's just one of those days. That's in Russia, by the way. One of the dudes in that, and like this one site I followed, it just follows just shit from Moscow. That's fucking weird. A lot of it's awful. It's like a woman hit by a car or a child hit by a car or whatever, like over and fucking over again. It's just awful. Like the number of those things, it's just bizarre. So, you mix up socialism and totalitarianism? No, I don't. Socialism requires totalitarianism to exist. And a lot of people spend their time defending the word more than they do the ideas. And they're so busy defending the word that they'll never get the idea through, because unless they can get like point socialism, then they won't fight for it. That's where that anti-incrementalism shit comes from. It's a constant problem. Is that they're so busy, like, if you don't call it, if it's not a win for team socialism, then I don't want it. Even if it actually makes even if the program exists, and so many of them do. How would you feel about a benevolent dictator? Fuck that. No, because nobody lives forever, and I don't care how benevolent they are, they're going to raise their kid to be a fucking inbred psychopath. Ask anybody, expert on British history. What followed the one good king? The shitty son who fucked it up for everybody. Let's see. Checking out. Yeah, hold on. Let me open up the chat room so I can actually see you guys a little bit better. Because I have to look up to this screen, but if I blow it up, I can look over here. I don't want to be dictated to. You sure about that?
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like Dick? Yes. What?
Yeah.
Great to be with you, Dick.
Wonder what kind of comedy Yakov Smirnoff is putting out these days. I mean, I feel like he should have a resurgence, shouldn't he? Socialism is not totalitarianism, House Sparks. No, somebody said I was mixing them up. I'm not saying they are totalitarianism. I'm saying that the advocators for socialism in the United States currently act totalitarian in their attitude about things. And it's not going to happen. Socialism can go with democracy, Al. No, it doesn't, because it takes the place of socialism. Also, once everybody has a say and you have majority rule in any situation, the equity necessary for socialism goes away. Yeah. Again, I'm much more interested in the programs and stuff that people care about and actually getting them implemented than arguing, because the conversation about what socialism means in the modern era versus what the actual word meant when it started versus what the academics say it is versus what fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene says it is a whole bunch of like, it is the political equivalent of arguing whether or not Superman could beat up the Hulk even if he was stronger when the fight started, because the Hulk gets stronger the more angry he gets, and if he keeps getting punched, he'll get mad, and therefore, like, it's silly. You're arguing for the value of the words, not the value of the program. You're partying with the wrong socialists. I'm only referencing the ones that have tried to work their way through the democratic process. And I guess some online, neo-socialists. Howley approves of total hilaritism. That's right. Yes. Everything is funny, whether it thinks so or not. And the more funny, the more unfunny you think jokes about you are, the funnier they get. It's an inverse equation. It's sort of my own Moore's law. So, yeah. The more a harmless joke annoys you or makes you angry, the funnier it gets. By the way, I don't consider bigoted statements to be jokes. Just to clarify, that's not enough. Social with others agreed upon together. Yes, there's a difference there, because at some point a hierarchical system needs to be established. And in the case of every time they tried a socialist system of doing that as opposed to straight democracy, you end up with fiefdoms. It doesn't matter. What programs do you want? If you want those programs and you can make an argument that they will be better than the current system, then Democrats are all on board. You don't need a second name. The socialists here are tankies at this point. Yeah, well, that's the other thing, is that word has been borrowed. Socialist is effectively, and I'm sad to say, is a lot more akin to the Tibetan swastika being absorbed by the Nazis. Not a one-to-one comparison, calm the fuck down. But it is, misused by the worst people. Yeah. What does a democratic socialist do? Yeah, well, I'll tell you what they do, and this was funny. We did a video recently. This is why it's been on my mind. We did a video, Lee Camp was talking about this, and he was very upset that the Democratic Socialists voted to continue to caucus with the Democrats. And he was like, what kind of socialists are these that they continue to caucus with the Democrats? And I was like, well, first of all, Democratic Socialists, Democratic is the first word in their title, so they're living up to their moniker. And secondly, that's how a vote works. Democratic Socialists are Democrats. Well, that was the thing, is that 40% of those Democratic Socialists didn't want to be Democrats. They wanted to float their own party, something or other. And 60% said no. And so the quote-unquote actual socialists turned on the Democratic Socialists and said, they're not socialists. They're just Democrats. That's the idiocy of the argument that I'm talking about. You know what's missing from that whole fucking conversation? You know what's missing from his criticism of them and their, the back and forth about the fucking name is, how do we get to a point where we have universal health care in one form or another in the United States that is best for people and least, has the least amount of fraud possible? Right? That would be a good part of the conversation. How about that? How about it would be nice, and this is really what that vote was about. If you look at just kind of the name of it, the vote should have been, do we insist on all or nothing universal health care right out of the gate, or do we vote to support incremental steps because we do not have the votes, nor can we convince the plurality of Americans to vote for the system that we're talking about? So do we support those steps going forward fully? Do we agree that we as a group, because we believe in the fundamentals of making sure as many people have health care as is fucking possible, do we agree that since our utopian desired outcome is not possible, that we will take the long slog approach and start actively supporting any step in that direction without fucking tapping the brakes or putting a bunch of buts in the middle of it. That would be a vote. It's essentially the same fucking vote, but more honest. Because that's what that was about. That's what that vote was about. And good on them for the majority of them, 60-40, agreeing that they would be all in on caucusing with the Democrats to move in the direction to try and make it better. Because I gotta say, the only area that really gets my gander up is these motherfuckers who think when there's a person drowning in the water that they're like, okay, we have a life preserver, but that's just a temporary solution, and it might make people, they have like the welfare reflex, right? If we do this mitigatory step, if we put carbon capture on on fossil fuel plants, and it lowers carbon output, that will make them think it's okay to just do that, and we'll never get to the point where we get rid of fossil fuels altogether. So let's be against carbon capture for that reason. That is the exact same mentality of fuck people on welfare because they'll just get lazy. If you don't, you got to motivate people with starvation. It is the exact, and if anybody disagrees, please explain to me in the chat room how that isn't the exact same argument. It's still the same shit. It's still the same, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, and I'm sorry some people got to go, and useless eaters, right? Yes, any progress is always better than no progress. That would make you what I would argue is a progressive. Oddly enough, though, the people who use the progressive title the most are against progress in any material sense. Because I have to say, but and pardon the use of pardon my German, but wouldn't somebody using the name, like being a progressive, using that as your phrase, what are you? I'm a progressive. Wouldn't that kind of just tell people, if they don't know anything about kind of the back politicals, somebody just lands on Earth and they've never heard of these names before. They don't know what capitalist is, and they think, oh, you like capital letters? You type like Trump? No. You live in the capital of every state you live in. You only live in the capitals. No. I believe in capital is another way of saying you have money saved up from work you've done before and you invested in things. I see. Okay, that's different. You don't know anything. Just know capitalist sounds like a funny word. If you met someone and they said, I'm a progressive, you're like, oh, I see. So you are for progress over everything else. Uber alles. The most important thing to you is that we're always making progress. That's what I would say. That's what progress means to me. No matter what, we're always getting up, putting one foot in front of the other. Just one fucking foot in front of the other. Right? Doesn't that kind of feel like what it would mean? It certainly isn't this everything or nothing idea. The possibility that we may fail in the struggle or suffer retaliation ought not to deter us from the support of a cause we believe to be just. Exactly. Get up, keep going. I like difficult time changes progressive. Huh? That's the definition of progressive. I think so too, but it isn't. It's not on the internet, certainly, and God knows that's its own cul-de-sac of humanity, right? But everybody that I see referring to themselves as a progressive, and I'm on a progressive channel. We say this on the station, so it matters to me because I'm on Chicago's Progressive Talk. That has to mean something to me. And to me, being a progressive is like, because I always thought once they tried to make liberal a bad word, people moved to progressive. And then the same way that when the Republicans made equality a bad word because they meant equality of outcome, and you're trying to lower everybody and it's communism and you're trying to hammer every nail to the same, and it only hurts the people who are ahead and da-da-da. We try to clarify by going to equity. Every citizen has the same basic rights. You have equity in the Constitution, essentially, that you have the same rights and privileges of every other American. What you do with it is up to you. That's equity to me. Equity is nobody gets a head start just because that isn't earned. And believe me, I consider that if your parents busted their fucking hump and were able to put you, into a good school, that qualifies as them acting on that equity. They prioritized your education over their getting a car or whatever else. At some point in history, somebody in your family went, education and moving forward, progress for our family is more important than some creature comforts that they don't violate that equity thing, okay? No matter when the fuck it started. Especially, and I think most of the people have a problem with the group that it started during a time when things were horribly unequal and violent and nobody was guaranteed anything because all guns had one. It took you a minute to reload your gun. And you lived in the fucking woods and anybody could show up in the middle of the night and just shoot you on your fucking porch. Like the end story in No Country for Old Men, And so anyways, point being is that progress to me means just that very thing. It's a daily effective idea. And when they started making liberal a bad word, a lot of people moved to progressive because honest to God, I viewed that word and does anybody else remember the kind of concept of it being what's essentially the Star Trek liberal? That one day we're going to have, machines that basically create. If you want a guitar, you just push a button and there it is. We're not there yet, but that's where we're headed. But along the way, we keep as many people happy, fed, and healthy, and smart, and moving towards that goal as possible. Educate as many people as possible, and keep everybody alive. And if you got some outliers like, the cons of the world, you don't kill them, but you put them in deep freeze. You're anti-death penalty because if it's easier to thaw somebody out than resuscitate a corpse. So that's Mr. Spock. You understand. So to me, right? That was what progressive meant to me. Star Trek liberal. One day, I don't know that we'll all. How did you get sunburned? No, I did not. I am not sunburned. I have a little bit of color, but I'm not burnt. No, I don't really burn anymore. It's weird. I look a little red. I think that's just the hue of the camera. Oh, you mean like around my neck? So it's how it compensates for. Although I am a redneck, so what are you gonna do? Anyways, Khan came back. He did, which is again, the moral of that story is when you have somebody that dangerous, obviously, you probably want the capital punishment, which is not exactly what I would shoot for. But anyways, point I'm trying to make is, Hal is a Vulcan Jedi. Yeah, it works. In that future, when we eventually get to a point where most of the things you want in life are created either instantaneously or the people who make them do them because it's a life path of theirs and everybody has enough calories and they're doing just fine and all that stuff. That's cool. We're not there yet by any stretch of the imagination. And acting like we are, which is effectively what China is doing right now. China thought at one point, we've got, they did that, what was it? I forget, it was 1910 or somebody said, everything that's ever going to be invented has been invented already. We should just stop. Nobody, and think of all the stuff since 1910, including, fucking televisions and phones and rockets and whatever. Anyways, point being that China just figured we're done. We got all the tech we need. Nobody really needs computers any faster than this, especially not our people. So fuck it. Let's just start cutting ourselves off from the rest of the world. We don't need it. That's insane. And like I've said many times, if the only purpose for humanity in all of our silliness and our wars and our messing about and our silliness is to eventually create a space program that eventually keeps an asteroid from destroying all life on Earth, we have served a purpose. We have just keeping that, me just making some dude who works at NASA laugh so he feels like he can go back to work after a project has failed and try again. Like I've done my part, God damn it. But every animal, every insect, everything that's lived, every animal, vegetable, or mineral, will have us to thank for stopping the asteroid. That's enough. Okay, and it's eventually going to come. So we might outlive our usefulness right after that. But there you go. So what I would say is, when I say the word progressive, it just helps to know what people are talking about. When I say progressive, I mean progress is the main value point. Even if we take one step forward, if we've taken one step back, if we've taken 2 steps forward, we're good. And mixed with that, progress also involves constant gardening, because one of the things that will set you back in the progress of growing a garden that's functioning, or growing crops, or keeping yourself healthy, is the daily maintenance. That in and of itself, daily maintenance of the good thing, making sure that the system that you have built does not get overgrown with weeds, effectively, metaphorically, is another form of progress. Yes, progress versus purity tests. Hearts and minds over bodies and bulk. And how close are we to self-annihilation? We're nowhere near it. Nowhere fucking near it. I got some bad news for some of the faux-aggressives out there. The world is not going to end. Your science-based version of the rapture, which is effectively what that is, the belief that, oh my God, any day now, mankind, whether it's AI or whether it's fucking nukes or a bioweapon, it's just right around the corner, is the same psychological reflex that rapture freaks have. Yes, Thanos was wrong. Agreed. The world, our Earth can sustain 20 billion human beings, no problem. If we reach the efficiency and, and quality of life, that we can, through innovation. We couldn't do it on a 1940s type of pollution economy, but we're getting there. Life is getting cheaper and a lot more efficient on this planet. I don't know if you've noticed, but even after COVID, life is kicking death's ass. But we're still there, we're still petering out at around, at under 9 billion. And it doesn't look like it's going to go any higher. China's population is a farce. Half the people they've said been growing, as far as population, other than India, has been bullshit. Africa has a huge growing population, but they don't live. That's the one thing that we should be focused on, is how many, that's the heartbreaking thing. It's not the people that aren't being born in some countries. It's the people that are born in some countries and don't have the simple resources to just fucking survive. And again, in some cases, it's put your mask on before you put it on the child's face. And I'm not being paternal about this. I'm just saying, if you have resources, that makes you the parent in that situation. If you don't have that, that makes you the child. That's just the reality. Doesn't mean you can't grow up one day, and we hope that you do. That's why you do it. If you had a kid next to you, this Benjamin Button over here, aging in, why would you put a mask on him at all? Not going anywhere. He's almost dead. You only give aid in situations where you think there's a future. It's insulting not to. So I would say the book Factfulness by Dr. Hans Rosling talks about this. I'm fascinated. I will look into it. Topsoil is disappearing. We're doomed. No, it isn't. That's a story from the 90s. No, certain areas where they're over in China specifically, in some places in the Middle East, but those phases go on 1,000-year cycles. It's not the same thing. Topsoil also moves with the weather. So anyways, point I'm trying to make is, we can get into those side arguments. I'm glad to do it. But if we're going to be progressives, it means that the most important thing is progress. If you're a liberal, and I believe myself to be a liberal as well, I think both of those fit in with what I'm talking about. You believe that convincing someone of the worth of your argument is the point of free speech, not forcing them to articulate it, or they'll be shunned like like we all live in M. Night Shyamalan's The Fucking Village. Right? There's a huge difference between an overt bigot and somebody who says the wrong thing. And you have to give some people an off-ramp if they're lost in the weeds about something, because if you're unable to do that, then you are either lost in your own cul-de-sac of nonsense and can't find a way back onto the highway, or you are too unforgiving to be trusted with power. Because I got news for you, and this is one of the learned lessons of the Biden presidency right now that I think is valuable to look at, and how he laughs off Trump to some degree, defends his son, but isn't vicious about the people who are looking into him, is the value of forgiveness and the toxin of being covetous. And if there's two, again, I don't have to forget that somebody did something if I believe they're going to do it again. That's not the act of forgiveness. Forgiveness is somebody is either, I guess the biblical phrase is, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And that's a profound idea, because you could argue that up till that phrase was written, whenever you believe it was written, it doesn't quite matter. It worked its way into the zeitgeist in its own way. That before that, forgiveness was transactional. You say you're sorry and you promise not to do it again, and I will forgive you. That's not the higher form of forgiveness. That's not the one that takes work. Anybody can do it then. It's almost, automatic. They're already taking care of the forgiveness part. You can give to them as before, which is what that comes from. Right? Because they're already in line with it. I don't know how this philosophical discussion started. It's kind of a morning show kind of a thing, but I don't care. It's nice. It's nice to have this conversation with you guys, because I love you and I want the best for you. So forgiveness itself is only truly real when it does not require the other person to do anything. It's up to you. It's on you. That's what makes it work. That's what makes it a higher form. That's what it means to be the bigger person. If it's a simple transaction, so what? It's like any other transaction. But if you're trying to be a better ethical person, nurturing that forgiveness and finding it when you can, and I'll tell you what, people they retract at this idea of forgiveness, especially when they've been in awful exchanges with some of the folks on Twitter and whatnot, or shitter, beg your pardon. And I always forget. And they're like, I can't. These people are awful. And what I will say is that person has control over you at that point. They have a bit in your mouth, and they can, with a simple tug of the reins, point you in whatever direction they want, even if it's just to put you in a sour mood and keep you there, which is enough for them most of the time. They don't need to convince you. They just need you mad. That's where the liberal tears shit came from. And it goes, thanks, Pontifex. It's quite gutsy of you with a name like that. Did you call me a Roma dog? Despicable George Bush destroyed my country. And I protested against it. So why does that make me a Roma dog? Also, calling me a dog, I suppose, is meant to be an insult from you. So, goodbye. See how you could have said that whole thing and left off the Roma dog part, and you would have been allowed to just keep talking? People call Romane, they go the house. Romani. I don't know. Apparently that person thinks I'm a gypsy of some sort, which is, I'll take as a compliment. That's fine. Thank you, Andrea. So, like I said, you can say, we love trolls here. That's the thing. We can be forgiving about this. And this dovetails. I appreciate that person, whoever they are, for bringing this around to it. Because one of the things you can do when you forgive another person, when you genuinely do it for your own sake and your own ethics, is that you get a little distance from what they are trying to do to you. Especially when it's a conversation. People forget that, we got to fight. You're not fighting. You're arguing online. A flame war is not a fight. I've been in fights. They're awful. Yeah. Real fights are terrible. And everybody gets hurt, and it's just not good. What you're doing online is arguing, and that's fine, but whatever. But you get some distance from that, and you're like, oh, I'm just arguing. And I don't take this person seriously. And I see that they're mistaken. And so you get some perspective. And with that perspective, you get some humor back. And with that humor, you get control of your own emotions again. Forgiveness is, if you need to be selfish about it and you're still attached to the anger towards whatever the person has done, let me give you another way of looking at it. Forgive yourself for hooking your heart to that person's wagon. Forgive yourself for allowing that person to put their rocks in your sack of burden, your beast of burden bag. Beast of burden bag? I like that, sure. You allowed them to hand you stones to put in the bag you carry on your back. We all have a bag that we carry around that's full of stuff that we did or stuff that hurt us and all that stuff. There's no reason to add to it unless absolutely necessary. And sometimes you ought to be carrying it around. I'm not one of these people who's against regret. Regret is another, but you'll learn a lot if you regret something about how to forgive in other people. If you have some regrets yourself, you'll be more honest about your feelings about other people. It's easier if you're aware of your regrets. It's easier to recognize that somebody might regret this in the future, and you can treat them accordingly. So with that, forgiveness means if you can't just forgive them in the abstract because you think it's a good idea and it's a healthy thing, you're not there yet. Just forgive yourself, tying yourself to them. Then cut that cable. And then you have some distance. Your smile will come back. And then your perspective will come back. And then if somebody does in the future take a swing at you some way, you're not right up here where they can sucker punch you. You got some distance and they're just a flailing kid while you've got your hand on their forehead to some degree, right? And the other thing is coveting. There is a difference between envy and coveting. Envy is, I wish I had that in the abstract. I'm agreeing with envy. I want a thing like that. They got the nice car. I want that. I want a nice car too. That's envy. Coveting is, I want their nice car. They shouldn't have that. That should be mine. However they got it, they probably didn't earn it. That's why coveting is one of the commandments. Thou shalt not covet, which seems a little silly. Because we associate coveting with envy, and it's not. Coveting is the thing that leads to violent uprisings. Coveting is the thing that leads to theft and murder. Coveting is the thing that makes people kill other people for the insurance money. Makes them change the will of their grandparent to favor them over their siblings. That's what coveting does. That's why it's awful. That's why it's a sin. That's why envy can drive you to go like, fuck, I got to work harder. That's different. Coveting is a clamation of other people's things. And when we talk about the 1% and the 10% and income inequality, there is a dangerous gray zone that drifts one way where it gets into coveting. And you get into Hassan Abi and people like him saying murder landlords in the streets, and you say it kind of flippantly. That's coveting. And it has a twofold curse. One, it's just awful on its own. The other is that it constantly plants the seed in your mind that person is holding you down. It makes it personal with that element, that other person, And that's what makes it unhealthy. And it, in many ways, it removes your responsibility. You guys know I envy Glenn Beck's giant studio with a bunch of TV sets in it and all these screens and a staff to do stuff. I envy it, but I'm going to earn my version of it eventually. I do not covet it. I would not want to set foot inside that studio. I'm sure it smells like straight ass, quite frankly. Now, real quick, I saw something pass by in the middle of my rant about how I was wrong about the Oxford definition of socialism. Where was that? There's a very big chat. There's a lot. I don't know where it went. It was, gosh, we talk a lot. We're good people. Love you guys. Where is it? Did I scroll past it? I can't imagine. Oh, yeah, there's. If two major dictionaries, Oxford words, give the definition of socialism, what purpose is there to argue about it? If the definition differs from those two, it's simple. You're wrong? No, because there is a material definition of it, and then there's the colloquial definition of it. And if the colloquial definition of it drives the conversation more than the material definition, then the material philosophy of socialism is effectively dead in that regard and has taken on an entirely different meaning and is being used to paint over anything you're discussing. And again, this goes to the word progress. This is part of that conversation. Also, the concept of socialism as a path to communism after industrialization is I still have the same problem with the idea that the only way to true veganism is to eat meat until you're the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then you can start dieting. Smells like fear and sweaty musings, no doubt. Gullible's not in the dictionary. Go look that up. Somebody check that for me. Could somebody check that for me? I don't know if I can. So, anyways, I don't know why we went on that particular rant, but I thought it had some value, if that's all right. So to me, just so you know, defining it, being a progressive means every bit of progress has value, not all or nothing. If you're all or nothing, you're not a progressive. If we don't get everything, nobody gets anything. If you think that incrementalism is wrong, you're not a progressive. So says I. Since we're not going to use the Oxford definitions of these fucking things anyways, how about I'm putting my flag in the fucking ground at that point. And anybody who calls themselves a progressive, who I would call #faux-gressive, and doesn't appreciate every single step forward and is willing to throw away the progress that's made to make a point, definitely doesn't qualify. And as a liberal, I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of association, and as long as your beliefs stop at the end of your fucking nose and you don't try to enact them on anybody else based on your religious or philosophical ideals. If atheists decided they were going to try and shut down churches, pass a law to do it, I'd be just as against it as I am against right-wingers trying to keep women from having the right to choose. You got to convince me. That's what being a liberal is. A liberal believes in that the argument in and of itself foundationally can convince the heart and mind of the person you're discussing it with. Hence the reason for the show. Thanks for sticking around, guys. All right, I got to bug off. I went a whole extra hour, and it was just a lot of stuff. The thing that I'm afraid. The weird part is I'm afraid I'm going to get on another rant, because one thing just occurred to me that. Gotcha. I'm starving too, CSL. I think you can probably hear my stomach growling by the end of that. Love you guys. See you on Monday with Tara Dublin joining us. I hope.